I want to just ask you, do you actually think Morbius is better than Thor Love and Thunder?
I could say that if I made an essay, I could argue pretty convincingly that Morbius is a
The Thor discussion was supposed to be in episode 1, but due to how long it was, we decided to just turn it into episode 2.
Okay, let's just try to let's have this be the last big conversation we do. Thor, Love and Thunder, review our initial reactions of us. Now, before we start, I'd like to bring up a certain tweet a certain somebody made that I was very interested in. True underdog. The moment you walked out of that theater, you decided, I'm just gonna randomly pick this ugly ass figurine of Thor, and then type on my phone and say, I would rather watch Dark World 5 times than watch Love and Thunder again.
It's true.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. And keep in mind, that's a big statement from me because I hate watching any movie a second time unless it's really good and has a ton of stuff that you didn't catch the first time.
Yeah. Here's the thing though, specifically for this tweet, I just watched Thor 1 and Dark World again just to refresh my mind and make sure if this is accurate or not. And I will say they're not bad movies. Heck, I was expecting to cuz Dark World is known as the worst Marvel movie for some people. It's that or I don't know,
the worst Thor movie
Hulk.
At least.
Iron Man 2, the Hulk, the Amazing Hulk, right? Isn't that worse?
Yeah. Incredible. I feel like it's usually. I feel like Iron Man 2 and Dark World are usually the ones that come up for the worst. I mean, Hulk's down there as well, but I think those are the main two. But especially Dark World, Dark World is the punchline of bad Marvel movies, really.
Yeah, and then because people don't like Brie Larson, then they will say they hate Captain Marvel the most. So those are the couple.
Captain Marvel's a pretty bad movie, objectively, as far as character arcs go.
Yeah, I don't like her.
It ruins Nick Cage's character retroactively. Yeah.
I didn't hate
Nick
the
Fury,
movie,
sorry.
but it's. Oh, I know exactly. Yeah, the eye part. Yeah, I know what you're saying. What do you think about the Thor movies, Snake? At least the first two. We'll get to Ragnarok and Love and Thunder because I'm only bringing this up because of your stupid tweet, True Underdog, because you made that
It's a correct tweet. It's an objectively true tweet.
Well, for me, I don't hate Dark World. It's just doesn't really interest me. I feel like the worst thing about Dark World is that they wasted Christopher Eccleston. I really like Christopher Eccleston, and he was just the character he was given is such a nothing. I feel like people saying always going to this movie is the worst one is a bit unfair, but I feel like Duncan and Malekith as the worst villain is pretty justified.
Yeah,
he should have been so much more, and it's easy to see why they went in such a different direction with Ragnarok. But I think Thor 1 is actually quite good. It's nothing special, but it's good. Blonde eyebrows notwithstanding.
And it sets up Avengers very well. I think Thor 1, even Phase 1 stuff, all that really builds up to... Even Captain America might not be the best movie out there, but it sets up the Tesseract. Thor 1 sets up Loki and stuff. So it's
Dark World has a crystal in it too. Has the reality.
Yeah. The reality
It's one of the things that made Phase 1 work so well is the fact that when you get to the Avengers, the only things that have not been set up ahead of time are the Chitauri Army, the World Security Council, and Maria Hill. Every other notable character and plot device have already been established, and Thor was a part of that. Ultimately, one of the most crucial parts, setting up Thor and Loki and a few other things. And I think it's a good film.
I actually watched Avengers 2. I watched Thor, Avengers, and then Thor 2. That's how I watched it. And Avengers still top 10, top 5 maybe best Marvel film in my opinion. So good. And so I felt that build up made Thor 1 worth it. Thor 1, while I don't hate it, drags on a lot. It really takes its time to tell you Asgard and all this stuff and whatnot. Remember the first action scene where they go to the Frost Giants place to duke it out and stuff like that? That's almost 20 minutes in the movie. There's that much explaining and stuff going on until 20 minutes till they have that first action scene. And Jane Foster, when he starts falling in love with Thor is such a like bland character. In my opinion, it's just like I watched it when I was a kid. I didn't really feel anything. I was like, oh, it's whatever. When I watched it again, I'm just like, this is so artificial. It's just like, oh, I love Thor because kind of a way. But I like, it's a very simple story of just Thor. Like, cause like I honestly feel like if this movie exists nowadays, it'd be just 30 minutes, which like give or take, that's a good or a bad thing. I'm not too sure, but I do still like it. I don't think it's like that bad. And surprisingly, I did not hate Dark World. I actually also kind of liked that too. But it had the same issues as Thor 1, which is it dragged even more, in my opinion. Just like so much. Have you seen Eternal, Strona Dog?
Nope. Skip that one for sure.
Well, it gave me Eternal vibes. Dark World, in my opinion. It's a lot of explaining, a lot of like talking about world building, a lot about the Dark Elves, where they, even though they don't really matter because they're such like one-note villains and stuff like that. Jane Foster's still not the best. Actually, there was a couple of like, I think like scenes in Dark World that kind of like pissed me off with these characters and stuff like that. The Dr. Selvig character was kind of a joke in the second movie. He was like naked, he was crazy.
He went
like,
crazy, yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that. That's when some of the like bad MCU humor kind of started, in my opinion.
The obligatory MCU humor that has to be shoved into everything, except Civil War for some reason. Thank God, which is like the only film where they didn't shove in jokes in the middle of like dramatic moments. Yeah,
it kind of increased like slowly as time goes on throughout the MCU. But in my opinion, Dark World. Oh, you go. Yeah.
Darcy is objectively the worst MCU character.
I don't hate her. I tried to, but it's like she has some annoying scenes, but other than that, it's just I don't know.
Back in WandaVision, and she's equally useless and unnecessary.
Haha, I get it. She can't say Mjolnir. How funny, how clever.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, actually, a compliment to Thor 1. I do like the jokes in there. There were a couple great jokes in Thor 1 that I still like. Oh, that was fun. Like the another joke.
Another.
Yeah, another. I like the one where Darcy pulls out her phone and just says smile, and Thor just smiles at her. It's like one of those.
A little prelude into why just a little prelude into one reason why I hate Love and Thunder. At least the first Thor movie understood how to make Thor funny, and it's just the way he interacts with humans because their culture is so different. Like him breaking the cup and going another is because that's like how they celebrate and how they do things.
Yeah, fish out of water. Yeah.
In Love and Thunder, they literally make him an idiot. Like he's actually stupid in Love and Thunder. Like you would think that he was hit in the head in between films, and his brain doesn't function right anymore.
I'll get into more of that later.
We saw where that happened in Ragnarok when he throws the ball and says that's what heroes do, and it hits him in the head. That's where it all went downhill.
It's the lore. I missed it. That's why he got stupid from then on. It's like a slow brain hemorrhage in his head that's making him dumber throughout like the rest of the movies. Dang. And Snake caught it.
I want to mention something about the original Thor that did not age well. If you go back and watch it, the action is really not that good. Or I guess a better way of putting it
too much, yeah.
Is the CGI is outdated in the first movie. But, like, the second movie, in my opinion, the action scenes are great. You got, like, the Dark Elves flying into there and, like, fighting the Asgards. The ending fight is amazing. I love
all the portal stuff, yeah.
The portal shenanigans and stuff like that. That's super fun. I really enjoyed. Like, I almost wanted to give it a higher score just because of that ending fight alone. But then I kind of remember, like, oh yeah, this is also kind of a drag. It's like some of the stuff are like less like better than the first movie, but then the action is better.
Don't forget, Dark World also pioneered the team up between Thor and Loki that Ragnarok pretends like it did first when it didn't. That was a Thor Dark World thing where Loki and him team up.
Did they really pretend that? I mean, yeah.
Everyone acts like it. Like, oh my god, I love Ragnarok because we see a brother moment between Thor and Loki. That already all happened in Dark World.
But that's not really the film that's like putting on these pretensions. That's just stupid people who.
That's what I mean, though.
Yeah, for sure.
It's bad.
Another compliment I would give to the original Thor movies is like Loki, the actor, freaking amazing. I enjoyed like almost everything he does in this. Avengers, he's at his peak in my opinion, but like even Thor 1 and 2, he's still fun on screen. He's still like one of the best characters.
Now that you mention it, that's a good point. That like in Thor 1 is the only film where Loki, you could argue, is actually not even a villain. He just went too far, but he's acting the way that Asgardians typically acted. Even Thor wanted to get rid of every frost giant at the start of the movie, so Loki is literally just like carrying on what Thor did.
Yeah.
And then by the end, it's like, no, Loki, we gotta be better. And that's why he's like so confused and like lets go and just falls into the void because he's like failed at everything he tried to do correctly. But then from then on, he really does just like show up and he's like mustache twirling, like, I'm a villain. Like even in Avengers, it's like, that is kind of a, in hindsight, I didn't mind at the time. Like I thought he was a great villain in Avengers, but he really does do like a huge shift towards being just pure comic-y, silly villain in Avengers, huh?
Oh, God. Do you guys remember when it was around the time Endgame or the Loki show was coming out, and someone from the production, it might have been Kevin Feige or Tom Hiddleston, who said that apparently during the events of the first Avengers film, Loki was actually being mind controlled by Thanos, and that's why he was evil.
That is just not true. That's just objectively not true.
I don't think even the Loki show like supports that idea. I think
they never mentioned it.
Nah, he was a villain.
I've never heard that theory at all, and I don't even want that to be true, honestly. Like, what?
They're just trying to make him into, like, low-key a hero because they want to keep him around more. And maybe they foolishly think that having a villain with the good guys is, like, a bad PR image, or that they'll get, like, dragged. Like, oh, my God, Loki's a mass murderer. Like, he can't be on the Avengers or something like that. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to slowly make him a good guy so they can use him for more stuff.
So either way, like, I think the first two Thor movies aren't too bad, but I give them around like a 6 out of 10, in my opinion. Ragnarok is when things really changed up. And this is also, so for viewers at home who don't understand, because Ragnarok is the movie that many, many people are like, oh, Thor is awesome. Oh, wow, we like Thor now, like the movie and stuff like that. However, what is your take on Ragnarok, True Underdog?
I gotta take a little bathroom break, then I'll come back and unload on that one too. I've been holding this for a while, and I might as well be fully ready when
I'm gonna get some more water then.
So how are you guys? I'm good. Got over the evil disease that was alluded to earlier that we're not allowed to mention the name of. I've been working on my Persona 3 visual novel. Got a new version of that at the time of recording, ready to go out. It'll probably be out by the time this thing goes up. I've been working on MK Chronicles, writing some cool stuff there. I've got the Scorpion and Sub-Zero focus chapters.
Okay. I'm back.
I've been talking to the audience with a bit that'll probably get cut.
Gotcha.
To talk about what I've been up to, because that section is probably not going to make it in this episode because we're talking about Thor instead.
Sonic Hall will definitely find a way to include your ramblings, don't worry. He's good at editing that stuff in. One of my favorite things he ever did is still like the compilation of us like talking about random stuff in between, but he just shows just the best parts of our random conversation, like me being like, Jean Grey used her mind powers to make Iceman gay, and it's like so random out of nowhere in the middle of our like back and forth, and it was great.
I like the parts where I think it was during the first debate where it's just me and you just like showing off our fingers and stuff to each other.
Yeah.
That was a good bit.
Those things are freaking heavy, so I'm scared to move them. The Diva one especially.
I was saying I've not gotten a new one in a while. I am going to be getting the Kawakami one from Persona 5 when it comes out next year.
I can show you the new one I got.
Because I love that woman. I would marry her in real life.
I think I saw that tweet from you too, Snick.
Which tweet?
Something about she's not your wife or something like that.
Oh, that retweet.
Yeah. That's sick. That's sick.
Tila.
That is a huge model. Oh my gosh.
Hope y'all like that. Okay.
So, oh wait, I don't know if you can hear us.
Probably not.
That means we can shit talk him. True Underdog, more like fuss over cat. I heard a student actually makes fun of him like that, or whatever, from what he told me before. And we love him, am I right? oh, welcome.
So Dog, how was the Tila show, the latest He-Man show? That's actually a Tila spin-off.
The main issue I think I have about that in hindsight is that they lied to the fans outright about what the show would be. I think if they had been honest from the start, that it was supposed to be like, what is a world without He-Man? If they'd just been honest about that, people wouldn't have been nearly as upset, because there are some okay standout moments. Tila is kind of like completely different in that show. It's kind of like, Dante versus DMC Dante, where they're just completely different characters, but they share the name. I don't hate either versions of Dante, and I don't hate either versions of Tila, but the Tila we got in that Master of the Universe is not Tila, because she would never act that selfishly. She would never be that rude to people, and she would definitely have more of a filter before she says stupid things like, yeah, you died, Prince Adam, but we had to live with it. What the fuck does that even mean?
I know that clip, yeah.
Like what does that even mean? And then like the funniest part about the season 2 in hindsight, which I noticed right away, but everyone else like who like either enjoyed the film or the show or they kind of disliked it, they forget the fact that Evelyn just gets to walk away and live a normal like life and have a happy ending despite literally destroying heaven and then trying to end reality itself. But no, she gets to walk away and just be fine. But everyone hates Skeletor, who achieved far less as far as evil accomplishments.
Because women.
Pretty much, because she has to be like her own little arc too. I don't dislike the idea of Tila becoming the new like sorceress, or I don't dislike the I'm forgetting his name again. I feel so bad. Galdo or whatever his name is, the little wizard guy. I keep forgetting his name. He has a pretty cool arc in the show, which was interesting. It's not a terrible show, but they just lied to you in each of the trailers. The first one made it seem like it was going to be a He-Man show. The second trailer only includes most of episode 1 and then the last episode. And all the in-between they don't show, which is why you're also ripped off again, which I expected. I totally saw that coming.
Could you imagine if like they hadn't talked about Snowblind on IGN and the trailer came out and it just showed Kenshi, Sub-Zero and Shang Tsung and their stuff, and then you watch the film, it's like nice and all about the Black Dragon instead. You'd be like, wait, what? No.
That'd be so interesting. That's actually how I felt about Ragnarok. That's a good way to lead into this. So
back to
you asked how I felt
Here
about
we go.
Yeah, you asked how I felt about Ragnarok. So the trailers and the title of the movie made it seem like this Thor movie was going to lean really hard into the Norse mythology side of Thor, because we get Hela, who they completely changed for some reason. She's supposed to be Loki's daughter, but for some reason she's the sister. Because for some reason the writers think we can't fathom how Loki had a kid, even though he's like 5,000 years old or something. He's definitely probably had a kid by now, but whatever. And her powers are completely different in the film. Despite being the goddess of death, she throws knives. That's her power. Oh, but she can make big ones, like the size of a mountain, but she's still just knife summoner, which I thought was so weird for a god of death to do that. But that's all they could do in the film is she throws knives. And she kills off like the Warriors 3 at the very start. That's so disrespectful. They don't even get like named or anything. They just get to be killed off. And I'm like, dude, I was kind of low-key attached to those characters. They were all pretty interesting,
and Sif isn't even in the movie.
Sif's not there because she's got to show up later on in Love and Thunder. And I'm not lying to you, Sonic Ha. I did not know that was her. Because she's so unimportant in that scene. I thought she was a random person that Thor like stumbled upon to talk to and help. That is how little chemistry they have in that scene, and how little Taika Waititi cares about the fact that she was supposed to love him and he was attracted to her too at one point. He doesn't give a shit because Taika Waititi can't write characters. He can only write funny situations. So he did not know how to do that back and forth there. But any hoozle. Ragnarok is almost nothing to do with Norse mythology. We get that first scene, then we cut away to random made-up planet, and the whole joke is that, oh, all the random crap comes here, and we get a random tiny nod to Planet Hulk, but it's not Planet Hulk. It's only Planet Hulk in like his outfit, and that's it. For some reason, despite Thor and Loki both getting separated at different points in the Rainbow Bridge, they don't end up in different spots. They just end up in different times of the same spot, which also makes no sense at all, because it doesn't travel through time. It travels through a distance. Like it travels like, across locations. So if he fell out of the Rainbow Bridge first, Loki should be on an entirely different planet, a different part of the galaxy, but whatever. Somehow they're both in the same spot, but time went by differently. Doesn't make any sense. Whatever. And also, the film has the same problem that Thor 1 has, where it has to somehow explain why these other beings are even close to Thor's level. The idea that there's even chains that can hold Thor is really hard to fathom. Like, that's really hard to, like, even understand why this planet that has only random trash that gets sent to it has stuff that can bind a god. Is really hard to understand.
Well, Thor's powers are, like, super extremely high, at least established in like the first movie, and they just keep like, okay, but actually, and they just kind of like, yeah.
And then there's like that weird thing on his neck that can somehow incapacitate him, which I get as a plot device because they need some way to have Thor be a prisoner. But the thing is, like, what does it use to stun him? Electricity? Because he controls that. It even sounds like a taser when, like, it hits him. That wouldn't work.
Yeah,
he controls lightning. That wouldn't do anything to him. And doesn't it even work on him when he's in his, like, Ultra God mode, which makes no sense either? Like, in his, like, pure Super Saiyan form, he still gets, like, hit by that, and it works? It's, like, it's so bizarre. I like the idea of Thor getting to fight Hulk. That's fun, because we've always wanted to see, like, who would win if they were both, like, going all out, right? Mm-hmm. I was kind of hoping what would happen is, like, the cliche thing where, like, Thor wins the fight, like, knocks out Hulk, but then, like, they turn on the taser and, like, have him fall down, and the guy just steps and goes, up, it's a draw, and, like, I don't know, I guess what I hate so much too is they tried to combine Planet Hulk, but then they just crapped on it, because in Planet Hulk there's a leader guy just like that and a Coliseum just like that, but the leader is actually this obnoxious, like, guy that you, like, love to hate, because he's not obnoxious like Jeff Goldblum where he's just kind of stupid. And that's the joke, like, haha, the leader's stupid, he has orgies. That's a running joke, by the way, with Waititi. He loves to throw orgies in all of his films. Like, every character has to make an orgy joke multiple times for some reason. I don't know why that's his shtick, but that's his shtick.
Did he do it in Love and Thunder? I actually don't remember.
Yes. Yes, Thor brings up, Zeus brings up orgies like 5 times.
I think so, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And they just crapped on Zeus so hard in that movie. But I'll get to that later when we talk about Love and Thunder. So Ragnarok is still a fun movie. No one can argue that it's not a fun movie, because it is objectively fun. But it's fun because they cram literally everything into it to where it's almost impossible to not have an entertaining film. How can you not have a fun film when you shove in Hela, Loki, Thor, Hulk, this Ragnarok setting, this stupid random city, Valkyrie, and then, like, a bunch of silly fart humor, like, sophomoric jokes here and there. Like, how could you not have, like, a Sif's there too, like, the dog Sif, not, like, the woman. Like, the big
Fenrir,
dog.
I kind of forgot.
Oh, Fenrir, whatever
Fenrir,
his name is, yeah.
You're thinking of Dark Souls, you fool.
I am. You're right, I'm thinking of Sif the Great Wolf,
right,
my bad.
right.
Yeah, Fenrir. Fenrir is there, but he's not at all lore accurate to Fenrir.
It's just a big dog.
Which is fine, I guess, yeah.
Well, to be fair, like, a lot of these characters aren't, like, Norse mythology accurate. It's like their own take and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, is Hela still Loki's daughter in the comics, or is that just from mythology and that's it?
I'm pretty sure even in the comics she's still his daughter. The only thing the comics got wrong is in the comics, for some reason, Thor and Loki are brothers, whereas I'm pretty sure it's actually Odin and Loki that are brothers, right? In the actual Norse mythology, and Thor is the nephew.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so they changed that part for the comics. In, like, Stan Lee's defense, though, back then, like, to research this crap, you had to go to a library. You couldn't just Google it, so it was probably harder to study.
Wasn't Fenrir, like, Loki's, like, son or something like that? Like, Norse mythology has, like, a lot of...
Yeah, Fenrir, the Midgard serpent, which oddly doesn't show up in the film at all. You know, I'm pretty sure it did in the comic version. And Hela, I think there might have been the horse as well. Sleipnir, is it? Odin's horse, which also isn't in the films. That was one of Loki's kids, because he shapeshifted into a female horse and got raped and gave birth to this horse child.
Yeah, something like that. Norse mythology is weird.
Fun fact about Hela in the comics, because she's a god of death, you actually can't even touch her. But they never bring that up in the movie. If she touches you, you die instantly. You drop dead on the spot, because she's the goddess of death. So technically Thor couldn't even punch her. He'd have to, like, throw lightning at her or something, because in the comics you can't even touch her. She has some weird Achilles heel, though. I'm pretty sure if you take off her cowl, like her fancy cape cowl that she summons in the film, in the comics she actually wears it. It's like an article of clothing. And if you take it off, she's not as powerful anymore. She loses, like, a lot of her nonsense without it. It's like Thor's hammer is required to, like, do a lot of stuff. Her cowl is required to do a lot of cool stuff.
Not too big of a spoiler, but that thing you mentioned is a little bit brought up in What If. That's all I'll say.
Oh, is it the cowl? Okay.
A little bit. So yeah, we kind of got a general gist. I will say this: you seem to be a lot more disappointed with this and even Love and Thunder, based off of, like, comic, because you've read the comics and, like,
I was more mad that they, like, I was mad that it's supposed to be a Thor movie. So I wanted it to have mostly to do with Thor and, like, Thor's universe and Thor's mythology, and it's not. Instead, it's like Thor being in a fish out of water story where Thor just ends up on a different planet, and it's like, oh, hilariousness ensues. And that's the actual point of the movie, which also, this film, this is a tiny, tiny nitpick that's not even a big deal, but it bothers me. Thor has now contributed to one of the biggest mainstream lies ever, one of the biggest misconceptions, that Valkyries are fighters. They're not. They escort the dead to Valhalla. they don't fight. But it's whatever. Now we all think that because
well,
this
it's
movie
not
helped.
really just because of Thor. I've seen so many Valkyrie battle ladies.
Same with
and
God
stuff
of
like
War.
that.
Even in God of War, the Valkyries fight, which I'm still pretty sure is not what they actually did. They just escorted the dead, but it's whatever.
What about you, Snake? Do you have any opinions about Ragnarok?
I like it. I don't have anything particularly deep to say about it. I just enjoy it. I think it's funny. I think this was such a turning point because around 2016 to 17, people started to realise that Chris Hemsworth has actually got really good comic timing. And it's like, well, if you embrace that and make Thor more of a comedy, then people are more likely to like it because, the first film was received well enough. The second one is considered one of the worst. Thor needs to be completely revamped, so going a more comedy direction makes sense. So
I'm gonna throw in a bit of what I feel like happened throughout the Marvel fan base when that movie came out. I feel like before that, Thor has always been just this fish out of water icon. Oh, he's a foreign guy, and that's it for him. Or like an icon, like a handsome icon. That's how Jane Foster fell in love with him. And I don't really think it was very relatable as a character because it just feels like Chris Hemsworth is playing semi like I said, foreign kind of a character inside of the Marvel universe and stuff like that, which made him really unrelatable for a lot of people. And so Ragnarok drops, and they really let Chris Hemsworth go with his comedic roots and stuff like that, and that made him much more of a I don't want to keep saying it, relatable for many people. This is how he's acting and stuff like that, and so sorry, my dad just came in.
Everyone else has their dads in the video, but not me.
Sad. Fatherless dog, sad. So that was one thing about Chris Hemsworth that I think people liked a bit more for his character and stuff like that. And another thing is, and this is just an interpretation, don't take this too literal, dog. Mm-hmm. I think people were not the biggest fan of Asgard, as in comparison to all the other lore that's been set up in Marvel or even the Thor movies. Mm-hmm. So Ragnarok was kind of a movie that says, I'm shitting on Asgard while also loving it, because half of it is not Asgard, where the other half of it is Asgard's gonna get destroyed, oh my gosh, we gotta somehow save it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why Ragnarok was received so well is because the previous movies and stuff that's established with Thor, in comparison to everything else, is not that high up. So Ragnarok changed that for a lot of people and how they feel about that.
I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just think it's really overhyped and gets way too much credit, because that's the film where we have such iconic lines as Satan's asshole, and that's the name of the thing they have to get through to leave. It's called Satan's asshole. And oh man, this ship that we stole is where he has all the orgies. It's filled with stupid writing, but it has so many things in it that it's still a fun movie that you can still enjoy.
I'd say there's stupid writing in it, but at the same time,
I guess it's a parody is why I dislike it. It's it's a parody without being honest from the first place that it's a parody, and it still tries to include serious parts which clash extremely. You have all this goofy stuff happening, but meanwhile Hela is killing everybody, and we're supposed to still be laughing at the scene of oh, isn't that so funny that Thor's stuck in a room and oh look, it's Hulk in a hot tub. Don't you all love Hulk in a hot tub?
I
look, he's naked.
I think it's balanced pretty good, actually, the humor and the serious stuff. It's you have the Thor stuff going on with I think Jeff Goldblum was pretty funny in the movie. I enjoyed his scenes, and then you got Asgard, which is in a pretty serious threat going on, and even that connects really well to the end of the movie, which is Asgard is not a kingdom, it's the people, and you literally see Asgard getting destroyed, which is a very big plot point, even for the MCU and stuff like that. That's how I feel about the movie. It's got comedy and it's got serious stuff, and it's written very well. I 100% agree with you on Love and Thunder stuff, but I thought Taika Waititi did a great job writing the characters in Love and Thunder. I think Mark Ruffalo, Loki, and Jeff Goldblum are all very funny, and even Chris Hemsworth, and that's kind of also what makes the movie work for me and why I like it a lot too.
What's weird is that Mark Ruffalo's not Mark Ruffalo. I mean, he's not Banner in that movie though. He's more innocent and a little bit childish and silly. Yeah. Which is weird because we established in Avengers 1 that Bruce Banner is a somewhat confrontational person, and he's got a very dark outlook on the world. and he's pretty overall pessimistic. And then when we're in like Ragnarok, he's like a bit more silly. He's like trying to like flirt with the Valkyrie chick and all that. Where you'd think that if he turned back into Banner again, his first thought would be like, "Oh my God, I'm finally out of there. God, I've been trapped this whole time." But he'd be like sad about it, like depressed. But that would ruin the whole tone of the film, which is that it's got to be kind of silly whenever they're in that planet.
But yeah. I mean, he was also in like a fish out of water situation. He was like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that movie started like his shift, because even in later movies, he's silly again. Even in the
Endgame.
Yeah, even like when he's like Professor Hulk, he's still like a bit silly, lighthearted, like taking selfies with people. Yeah. Whereas Professor Hulk in the comics was like very much like doing a bunch of like science stuff, just like Banner would normally be doing. Like he was building like these crazy like teleporters and stuff and whatnot. He was building giant weapons to fight the next threat. He was always like, he's like Iron Man. He was constantly doing things in the background, but he had Hulk's body, which meant that he could like lift and carry things like they were nothing. And I would have liked to see more of that. And if it had stayed like Avengers, we would have seen that. But Ragnarok established that he's like a bit more silly and lighthearted now, so they made him like silly and lighthearted. He was borderline suicidal in Avengers. Like he talks about trying to kill himself multiple times and not being able to do it. But then in Ragnarok, he's like, "Huh, did we fight? Like, did I beat you? No, I won. Oh, that seems kind of weird." And he's like, no, I won definitely, easily. Oh, okay.
I mean, you could argue that he's just like shaken and confused because he spent what like 2-3 years like basically asleep. He doesn't know where he is. It's kind of like a big shock. So I can give it a pass.
Kind of. It depends on which version of Hulk we're going with, because Incredible Hulk didn't do like the comics. Incredible Hulk made it clear that Banner is still Banner, even when he changes. He's just lost himself a bit to like the rage and the transformation, but he still like knows people that he knew when he was Banner. But then they try to make it like the comics in Ragnarok, where they're two separate entities that learn separate from each other and interact
Avengers
differently.
too, in my opinion.
Avengers also, yeah. Because in the Incredible Hulk, they were going for like he is Hulk. Like he's still Banner always, but he just gets like bigger, and like he gets angrier. And
to
like
be
that's
fair,
like
the Incredible Hulk movie, I think for a lot of people was one of those sort of things that like they just don't want to remember. And like Avengers is the first time we saw Banner. Wow.
But even in that movie, they imply that they're like kind of the same in the first Avengers. It's only in like the second one when they like have them be different, because he reveals the big twist in Avengers is that he's always on the edge of becoming Hulk. Like he's always angry. So to become Hulk, he doesn't even need a trigger. He just kind of like activates it. So even in Avengers, he's pretty much like Banner even when he's Hulk. He even still hates Thor when he's when he's Hulk, which he wouldn't have any reason to. But it's because like they had beef already. But no. I don't want anyone to think that like I hate Ragnarok, because I don't. I just think it's like
overhyped.
that overhyped like a lot. It's got a ton of flaws in it, like as far as if you're a comic fan, and that's probably what gets my goat the most. A lot of the new films they're going to be doing from here going forward are going to be for people who haven't read the comics, not a mix. Before it's been for both. It's been either 50-50 if you have read the comics or haven't. It's been equally enjoyable, or it's leaned a bit more in the comics favor. But ever since like Love and Thunder and stuff, and even before that, like this recent change, it's way more for the casual audience. And if you're the comic book fan, they don't care as much. They're going to do their own thing. Even the new Ms. Marvel show is not even close to the comics in
I heard
any
people
remote
are really
way.
pissed off about Moon Knight. Like they changed a lot about Moon Knight too.
Same with Moon Knight. Yeah, they seem to not care anymore about the comics. They're just using the IPs, and maybe that's why Ragnarok sits unwell with me, because it's the first time I noticed like they don't care anymore. They're just going to do whatever they want, but use these characters to kind of like set up their stories.
I would say that's an agreeable thing to say about future Marvel films, but I definitely feel like Ragnarok was like not really necessarily we don't care about comics, but we need to change up the formula, and that's like they want to change up the formula is how like the movie is. It's kind of a like a twist in that sense, I guess.
I was going to say I feel like where it was the worst was with the Mandarin. Not even the Iron Man 3 version, because they very quickly were like, well, there is a real Mandarin out there. But it's like, well, they went and did the real Mandarin. Here's the real one whose name was stolen. And then even less like the comic version somehow. And it's like, then why did you fucking bother? I mean, I get that you can't really keep it the way it was in the comics where Shang-Chi is the son of Fu Manchu. That would be weird. But this is still an odd direction to go.
I really think they should have embraced the magic, though, because for some reason the Iron Man writers felt like they had to have the villain also be technology, and that ruins all the fun. Like, imagine how cool it would have actually been, though, for Iron Man to fight a mystic person like Shang Tsung as, like, the villain who controls magic,
Dr.
like Shang-Chi, but, like, evil. Yeah. And then, like, have an actual dragon, too, on top of that would be so sick. Like, everyone would have loved to see that movie, but I guess they felt it'd be too much of a tone shift from the previous two. That was all Tony Stark having to out-science his opponent and, like, out-technology his opponent, which is, like, a huge wasted opportunity because the comics embraced the fact that he used technology to deal with supernatural threats, whether it was aliens or whether it was magic. Like, he used technology because that's all he had. But not all of his villains were technology based. But we should probably get to Love and Thunder real quick.
I
think Iron Man 3 is a whole other conversation, but let's get into the final part, which is really the main conversation I wanted to have. Thor, Love and Thunder, dun dun dun. Because this one is very interesting.
More like Thor, Love and Blunder. Ahoy ho!
Ping. I'm gonna ask True Underdog last, but I'm gonna get like both of our opinions out. A little, just small opinions. What did you think about Thor, Love and Thunder, Snake?
True Love and Thunder.
Did I just say
it was alright. Thing is, I feel like we're at the point now with Marvel where Phase 4 is fucking terrible. And I think that the only stuff I've actually enjoyed were Spider-Man, which I've not rewatched the film, so it might just be down to nostalgia, but I enjoyed Spider-Man.
And Hawkeye.
Yes, Hawkeye. That I quite enjoyed.
And that's it, right?
Have you seen I haven't had to watch that one yet. I need to watch that.
I've watched through Moon Knight. I thought it was okay, but I'm not familiar with the source material, so there is something, this dumb shit they did in that show. Like, oh, let's have the main villain get beaten off screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not too spoilery, but I get what you're talking about exactly. What you're
saying. But like, there's good stuff in that, like the episode that's about Mark going into his past. That was a good episode. I thought that was one of the best parts of it. Of course, it's kind of hilarious that you look at all these shows and you're like, this didn't need to be a show. This could have just been like a 2.5 hour movie. And then you look at Eternals, and you're like, this probably should have been a show. But the point is, Phase 4 has been so underwhelming and in some cases atrocious, like with What If. Like, oh my god, What If is atrocious. That
you definitely are like the one person I know who hates What If like the most, like from what I've seen, because like out of people are like, oh fuck Eternals, Black Widow horrible, and you're like, What If is the worst thing ever, and people be like, okay, what?
Yeah, but we can talk about this in another episode, but basically the point is, Phase 4 has just been so bad that when Love and Thunder comes out and it's just fine, I'm like, it kind of stands out as one of the better things of Phase 4, unfortunately.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't think it's bad, it's just, I don't really feel like I'd want to rewatch it. I'd probably rank it as like the third out of the 4 Thor films. I'd probably go like Ragnarok 1, Love and Thunder 2, but maybe rewatch them again, I might reevaluate, but that's call it where I'm at. It's alright. The only thing that really stood out to me notably is that the screaming goats were unfunny from the first second they appear on screen.
When I saw that, I was just like, are we really doing this?
I thankfully knew about it in advance.
There was a couple of part in the humors that was just like, are we really doing this kind of a thing?
I was surprised that... Well, are we going to go full spoilers?
Of course, why not?
Right.
Love and Thunder spoilers, guys.
So,
we spoiled a lot of things just in the previous, but I will warn people about that. We spoiled like He-Man, or that was it called?
Who cares? But the point is, one thing I was surprised by is that they didn't transition to Jane being the new Thor. I thought that was the point of the movie, but no, we're sticking with Hemsworth Thor, which is...
And they,
are we?
Yeah.
Are we? He doesn't keep his name.
He does.
I mean, he's still the main
No, he's called Thunder at the end. His new name is Thunder.
Is that really his new name?
Her statue is Thor, and the Legend of Thor is Jane Foster's one selfless act versus Thor having saved the galaxy multiple times, but he's not Thor anymore. He's Thunder.
Are you? I feel like Love and Thunder is kind of like a title. You know, it's like saying.
No, at the end they say they're known as Love and Thunder. They say it at the very end. It's the last line. The two of them are known as Love and Thunder.
But that's more of a team name, not their individual names. I mean, I'm sure his daughter's not literally going to be called Love. But
okay, but I'm just letting you know they did the exact same thing in the comics. He's not called Thor. He's called Odin's son.
Okay.
Yeah,
he lost his name in the comics too.
That was Fox. Like, that's his actual name. You can't take that. Like, it's like Sam Wilson didn't say, "I'm the new Steve Rogers." No, he's not the new Captain America. You can't do this.
Right.
You can't do this to my man. But,
Modern Marvel don't care. Modern Marvel don't care.
Oh yeah, we have two Spider-Mans running around in the comics right now at the same time. Like, give Miles his own name. It's not that he doesn't deserve to be called Spider-Man, but if we have Peter Parker as Spider-Man, Miles needs to be called something different.
Yeah.
The only person they ever called a different name yet is, like, they couldn't call her Spider-Gwen because it doesn't make sense, right? They didn't want to call her Spider-Woman, so she does have a new name. It's Ghost Spider.
Yeah,
which is fine, but it should be Spider-Ghost.
Well, if you're going to call someone Ghost Spider, that should be when it's Spider-Man and Ghost Rider as the same person.
Oh,
that's why you should use that name, not for someone she just wears white. That's why you're calling her a ghost. Like, no.
It's a cool name.
No. It's because Gwen in the main universe is dead. I get it. Haha. No.
Well, we are talking about a company so creatively bankrupt that one of their best creations recently was a Hail Mary of what if we just have Gwen Stacy be Spider-Man instead. Like, that's how desperate they are for new ideas.
Oh, is that the comics? Sorry, I wasn't.
Spider-Gwen in Spider-Verse, like in the comics, all that happens is she got the powers instead of Peter, which actually I'm kind of sad they glossed over it because her actual origin comic is kind of sad because Peter without Spider-Man and his uncle's still dead becomes a super depressed person and he creates the lizard serum to try to make himself special, but all it does is make him lose control and like attack the school where Flash Thompson and like the bullies are at, and she has to stop him and he dies.
Yeah.
And his dying words are like, "I just wanted to be special like you," and he dies. And you're like, oh, this is actually really sad. I wish they would like show that in Spider-Verse, but they really glossed over it. They just showed her kill the lizard, and that's it.
I'm sure it'll come up in the female-led Spider-Verse spin-off film they're planning, because Amy Pascal will not let it go that people aren't interested in the female-led spin-off just because there are women in it. Pick good characters and make a spin-off. No one gives a shit about Black Cat and Silver Sable and Adventures. No one wants an Aunt May solo film. Amy Pascal, you are a fucking fool.
It's fair.
I want to mention something about the calling the Thor thing, because in the movie we had the subtitles on the bottom, and at that scene when Jane Foster says, I forgot his name, when Christian Bale says like, "Oh, Lady Thor, you're here," and when she has her like triumphant morning, "My name is not Lady Thor, it's Mighty Thor," or something like that, which is it's a callback to the joke that she wants to make like the cute like the cute superhero lines she was talking about Thor, but. When she said, "My name is not Lady Thor, it's Mighty Thor," my Chinese subtitle said, "My name is not Lady Thor, it's Lady Thor." It just says Lady Thor twice. And I'm
That's funny. That scene was unnecessary too, because him calling her Lady Thor isn't even an insult because her hero name is Thor and she is a lady. But we live in this modern era where like calling someone by their gender plus like their name is like an offensive thing, even though she is literally the lady version of Thor. But they had to throw that line in where she's like, "I am the Mighty Thor," which is actually more of an insult than you think, Sonic, because that's Thor's actual comic title.
Mighty Thor.
Like his comics were called the Mighty Thor. So she is low-key saying she's the new Thor.
Because it's like all the characters that Stan Lee co-created, they all had these adjectives. The Amazing Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, the Uncanny X-Men, the Invincible Iron Man, the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but who was that?
Because technically they should be just the four. But yeah, so but I look at Lady Thor and like it has like an air of like regality to it. Like that was like a noblewoman Thor. It's like, it sounds cool. Like it's a good name.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool too.
I'm still to this day mad that like I know why they did it, because at some point Marvel had this weird idea that they had to like hand the torch over to new characters for everybody. Everyone got replaced. I don't know if you all know this. Like they kind of rolled it back because they sold so poorly.
Well,
they rolled back Hulk. Go ahead.
I reckon that was set up for the MCU. Like after the Infinity Saga, I reckon it was just so that they had an excuse to be like, well, okay, so someone else is going to be the new Captain America after Chris Evans' contract expires, and it's like, well, we didn't just pull the shit out of our arse. It is comic accurate. Sam Wilson was Captain America for a while. I mean, admittedly, Sam Wilson's Captain America was one of the better ideas to come from that. The others are like Lady Thor, which was not that well executed, at least to start off, and then you have like Amadeus Cho Hulk and then Ironheart, and I'm like, Ironheart, you couldn't at least make her like Rhodey's niece so she has some kind of connection to Tony Stark? You couldn't even do that. No,
wait. She-Hulk actually replaces Hulk.
No. Amadeus Cho replaces Hulk. His name is Totally Awesome Hulk, and I'm not making that up. His subtitle is Totally Awesome, and then Hulk. And it's this like, one side character whose name is Amadeus Cho. They made him the new Hulk instead of Bruce Banner for a while, and they completely missed the point of Hulk, which is the fun duality between different types of personalities fighting for control. Instead, he just gets big and gets Hulk's powers, but keeps his own like, yo, I'm a high schooler like personality.
He's basically dude bro Hulk, but he's also intelligent.
Oh wow.
The reason they did that, I don't want to spend too much time on it because we still haven't gotten to talk very much about Love and Thunder.
I haven't said my opinion about it.
The reason the comics did that is because they found out that whenever they change a character's race or the character's sex or something, that it sells a ton of copies for that first issue, but they didn't realize it's just the first issue. They thought it would bleed over into later sales, and it never does. There's a huge drop-off, and then everyone loses interest. That's why during that one period of comics, you had Wolverine getting replaced by X-23, but she's still called Wolverine. You had Thor being replaced by Jane Foster, but she's still called Thor. You had Hulk being replaced by anybody, but it's still called Hulk. In fact, for a while, She-Hulk was Hulk. They dropped the she from the name, and they made her all buff and ugly, and everyone hated it, but they still kept going for like years with it.
I've done videos on that. The fact that it's like, oh, she's just big, dumb, roided out Hulk, and it's like, it's just Hulk with tits, as opposed to She-Hulk. And I feel like, did they change her back because of the backlash? Or was it because some creators were passionate about the classic Sensational She-Hulk? Or was it because Sensational She-Hulk was the direction the MCU was going to go, and thus brand synergy was necessary?
Bingo. That's the reason. Because they wanted her to look similar to the show version that's coming out.
With the terrible with that show, it's like, let's say one thing about it. Sorry, it's like the She-Hulk show. It's like the CGI is terrible, but there are a lot of shots of her feet. Therefore, it's going to be a good show.
Oh my gosh!
People are liking that, including my friend. My gripe, Snake, isn't even the CGI looking bad. I can get over it. I really can. I don't care as long as it's written well. My only gripe so far is how horrible the villain looks.
Who is the villain? Is it the Abomination thing?
No. The big strong lady who breaks through the wall during one of the court scenes.
I only saw like one trailer, so I
already forgot her name.
Was that Titania?
Titania. It's Titania.
Because she's usually She-Hulk's enemy. Although, funnily enough, in the current run, I believe they're trying to become friends, which seems odd timing. But I should. Oh no! You got a female protagonist. The female antagonist is going to join her and become a friend, and then the real villain will be a man, because that's how this stuff has to be made. Oh god, this show's going to be terrible.
Actually, Mark Ruffalo is going to be the main villain.
Who?
Mark Ruffalo is going to be the main villain.
Mark Ruffalo, real Hulk.
Well, what's going to happen is he's going to lose his powers, because when he shows up in the post-credit scene of Shang-Chi, he's just Banner again. Yeah, so I reckon he's going to lose his powers, or at least get it under control or what have you. But something big's going to happen there.
Oh, I was saying, it's funny that Snake brought that up, that they're going to be friends, because there's so many running jokes that happened with people who were comic book fans that didn't like the direction that Marvel was going, and so they purposely made memes out of all the trends that became really common. And one of the trends that became really common is that all women are besties. All women are best friends. Even if they were villains until like the new era of Marvel, they are all best friends now. Even Titania and She-Hulk are now like besties in the comics, but in a weird way, because apparently Titania has this urge to fight that she has to get out of her system, and She-Hulk agreed that they can have random weekly fights to keep that urge at bay, but just no longer like trying to kill each other, but they'll still just have like their random rock'em sock'em like fights, and so they're still like they're still besties. The other one I've already mentioned in a previous conversation with you that we probably can't include in the podcast because it'll give me like fire from Twitter. But another cliche, another cliche that happens in comics lately is what this one guy called statistically impossible lesbians.
Join our Patreon to hear true underdog talk about lesbians.
But so I forgot where we left off with Love and Thunder, guys. I apologize.
Snake. Okay,
Snake
censor
gave
over.
his opinions.
Snake was giving his opinion. I guess I'll give my opinions. I'm like on the fence, the same with like kind of Snake, where I think it's also all right. Even though I thought this movie was all right, in fact, I think it's like maybe good. I definitely felt that phase 4 fatigue that people have been stating all over Twitter and stuff like on previous movies. This is a movie that made me feel that. I'm just like, okay, kind of a way. I mean, here's the thing though. Thor 1 and 2, Thor is just like, oh, mighty god who like is a fish out of water situation. He talks like interestingly differently. And then Ragnarok is the transition to make him more relatable. And by that, making him more funny. But then as it slowly goes over to Endgame, by the way, a lot of people have mentioned that Infinity War Thor might be their favorite because he's not like as funny, but he's not also as like emotional.
He's not an idiot. His age actually comes into play. Like he has knowledge that no one else has. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
He even knows fancy words that no one knows and stuff, which is cool.
And like he's also very tragic, which makes him like, oh, this is like very interesting like phase for Thor. And then they kind of just don't do that in Endgame. I think Thor: Love and Thunder like turned the notch the complete other way from like, oh, not really relatable or like just iconic handsome man to never shut up idiot who is like way too talkative and keeps coming up with jokes.
He's a literal clown.
Yeah, that's Thor: Love and Thunder basically. It's just a comedy, and like that's like the main focus of where it's going. I'm not gonna say it's like, because I laughed at scenes. I thought there was stuff in it that was funny. But it was funny for the expense of making Thor stupid. It's like, that's funny, but that's also, like, dumb. Like, you made Thor dumb in that scene for the comedic effects and stuff like that.
Anything that could have been a joke, they sacrificed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and how much of it is, like, you're sacrificing for the story because the story sucks. Like, there's really not much of a story. It's basically just you're there for the comedy. Well, I say that, but I think, in my opinion, this movie is like Ragnarok, but we're going to turn the funny knob to a max and also turn the tragedy knob to a max because at the third half it's like when Christian Bale was showing off like, oh, when Jane Foster's like cancer was getting worse and worse, and when like there's that whole wish scene and stuff like that, like, oh, that's like a very very sad emotional scene. I did not think the balance worked as well for Thor: Love and Thunder compared to like Ragnarok, despite them being directed by the same and even having the similar tone.
It does feel like he was reined in a bit, Waititi, for Ragnarok, and then it feels like because that was such a success and like a renaissance for Thor in the films, that they perhaps like eased off on it and let him go a bit far. Because he's one of those creators where he just feels like one of those creators that needs to be reined in a bit because he can do good stuff, but some of his ideas are a bit screaming goats. So you kind of want to.
Yeah,
you need some people to be able to like rein him in a bit.
That's the thing about Thor: Love and Thunder. Like, it's like I can't like I hate stuff about it, but at the same time, it's like I think it's still fine. But like I don't want fine because I thought Ragnarok was really good. I thought Taika Waititi could balance this really well, but Thor: Love and Thunder is just a comedy through and throughout, really. And even then, the jokes are way more out there, and so many misses compared to hits, in my opinion. But overall, like, it's all right. I still liked it. Like, yeah, like, kind of how Snake feels, basically.
So, do you want me to go through like play by play, like find as many things that I disliked, like in order of how they happen in the movie? Is that how we should do this to make sure I don't?
Up to you. We are about 2 hours in right now, which is fine. Actually.
You save that for the Thor: Love and Thunder 2.5 hour critique you'll make.
That's what I assumed it would actually be. I assumed that like we pretty much like already ended the first podcast, but we're just recording the second one right now. Is kind of what I assume might be happening.
Oh, you think so? I mean,
because we're already here. I mean, we're already sitting
extra
down.
footage already, basically.
That's what I was thinking. Like, that's why I wanted to record it now, even if it's not going to be in the first podcast.
Sure, I'm actually very interested to hear all what you want to say about Thor: Love and Thunder.
We can make it a Patreon exclusive segment for the podcast.
The Patreon exclusive section is going to be about the lesbian thing you said, just the dog. Yeah, that's going to be Patreon exclusive stuff.
And I want to go on record. I have no problem with the LGBT or inclusions of it in the film. It's just or like in the books.
Absolutely.
It's a running joke that every female
Patreon exclusive.
It needs to be said, but bisexual people, you are valid. It brings my piss to a boil when I see people being like, oh, if you are bisexual but you're in a straight relationship, then you ain't LGBT. Fuck those people. They deserve to die. You are valid, whether you are more leaning one way or the other, whether you date one sex or the other. You are valid. Never let anyone tell you otherwise.
Sure,
based
I agree.
Snake? Based
Very valid.
Snake, yeah.
So I will say, I'll give Love and Thunder one credit, because even though they did like Gore the God Butcher completely wrong, at least they showed his origin, which I didn't think they would do. Part of me thought they were going to skimp on it and just have him already be evil, and we get like a slideshow of it. Like maybe Thor would be like, oh yeah, I know that guy. That's the God Butcher. So something several hundred centuries ago, like he showed up and did this and that, but he's been gone for a while. I'm kind of surprised he came back. I thought it would be like one of those, right? Because the God Butcher is actually...
It's quite well done, in my opinion, that intro. Like, it's quite dark. up until the god shows up.
The god's not actually there, I don't think, in the original reason why he hates gods, but it's a similar reason why. Like, they never answered his prayers, and like his whole people died, including like his daughter. But I'm surprised they even showed like the creature holding the sword, because that's a big reference to Null, who was like the god of darkness, who was also responsible for making the symbiotes. I'm surprised they even showed that at all, because that's a huge like comic book reference to even show like the dead warrior with the sword like in its hand. In the comics, there's also a giant golden warrior next to it. It's like a warrior of light, and they both died equally in combat. And Gore stumbles upon the weapon, which still gives him a remnant of its abilities. Because these things are like eternal level threats. Like those two beings that were fighting are like planet-ending like beings, but they both killed each other. And he gets the sword. So they kind of half did that. So I'm impressed they even went that far with it. I thought, knowing it's Waititi, it would be like, oh, my daughter just died, I'm so sad, trips, and like falls over the sword. What's this? And he just picks it up. I thought that'd be how he found it. Like, given how the rest of the film is, I wouldn't be shocked if that was like how he found the sword. Though they do have one stupid line though, which is the god explaining. The movie has a lot of exposition that would normally never be said by people, but they have to include it, otherwise the audience would be lost. Like when the sword goes into his hand and he goes, "The sword chose you. You're cursed." Like, there's no reason to have that line except to explain why Gore is unnaturally evil later on in the movie, where he's like tormenting kids and shit for no reason, because he was a father. There's no reason why he would take them hostage, sure, but there's no reason why he would be in there like, "Do you want to see me tear this thing's head off?" Like, he wouldn't do that. Gore doesn't have any interest in that in the comics. He just wants to kill all the gods. He wants to create a world without gods, more accurate to say, right? And he's so powerful in the comics that all three Thors from like different timelines have to fight him, which is like epic as hell. Also, he has no nose in the comics. Fun fact.
That's interesting. Voldemort stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not really familiar with the character as he is in the comics, but I saw this video that had an interesting take on it. The idea that in the comics, it's not a quest for revenge like in the film. It's more like a philosophical thing, like these gods lord over us and like demand our obedience and worship, but they can be killed like an immortal man. So why do they deserve this? And so the idea is maybe Gore is right, which is funny because that's actually what I think that's what Nick Fury says to Thor to make him unworthy of the hammer, to pass it on to Jane Foster. that Gore was right, but yeah. So it's like basically they changed it to make it a bit more simple, which is the way a lot of the stuff does. It really just streamlined a lot of stuff, take out a lot of the nuance, which is a shame. But if you're going to do this like wacky zany comedy, you can't really have the villain be, maybe they're right in their desire to kill all the gods, which includes our main characters. So
yeah, well, sometimes I one of my favorite like stuff about Marvel films is when like you wonder if the villain is right, kind of stuff, which is like Civil War and stuff. But by the way, you didn't mention this yet, dog, but like I had a big issue with the movie in the fact that the motive is so weak. I mean, not necessarily Gore's motive is weak, but Thor stopping him motive is very weak. Because like in Ragnarok, Asgard's gonna like be taken over by Hela. We gotta stop her. Okay, great. And in this movie, Gore wants to kill all the gods. Wow, that's ambitious. And Thor's like, I don't give a shit. I'm just here to save the kids. It's like such a different path for both like our main character and our villain. Even when he was giving that speech when he was covering Thor's mouth, I want to kill all the gods, right? Yeah. Thor doesn't give a shit. He's just to save the kids, which is also a pretty weak motive in my opinion. One more thing, Christian Bale, like I think did a great job playing Gore. It's just sadly this was more of a comedy, so he really couldn't show all that great characterism in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll start with like my big key issues then. So issue number one, Thor is really made into a clown in this movie. Like everything he does, he can't even finish a speech. Like he does like a dramatic speech to rally everyone up, and he can't even do that without stuttering or saying something dumb or like awkward, like, oh, it's so funny because LOL's so random. Yeah. And that's a big issue to me because Thor is like 5,000 years old. He's mastered the art of speaking. Like he can at least do that. We saw even in the Thor 1 and 2, he could talk normally without messing things up. He's a natural leader in a lot of senses too. He should be able to do all that. But even from the very first scene in Love and Thunder, after Gore's scene, the first scene with Thor, I knew that we were in trouble when they had that like goofy scene of him sitting on the hill, and then the Guardians being like, monk. Thor, we need your help, because that implies that Thor knew they were fighting, because you can hear the gunshots and stuff. Thor's just not helping for some reason. Why? There's no reason why he wouldn't be helping except to set up the joke, because he's on the planet. They landed their ship there. He knows there's a battle going on. He's just not helping for the sake of a joke, so that he can go, alrighty then.
Starts writing it like a witch broom.
But was there not a line that implied that he was constantly stealing the Guardians' thunder, so he was letting them deal with it until things got...
I think I remember that too,
him? I think that's what it was. That he's basically like, fine, you guys go and deal with it. I'll come in and help if you need it. And then Star-Lord comes to help him. What I thought was really weird was the way Star-Lord is written when he's like saying goodbye to Thor. His dialogue is really off. So I was wondering at first, is this just what's his name, played by Waititi, the rock guy?
Korg.
Yeah, I thought, is he just telling this story and that's why the dialogue is so weird? It's like, no, that's actually how Star-Lord speaks in the film.
I mean, it's just not written by James Gunn.
Yeah.
It's just not written by James Gunn, yeah.
Yeah, people were joking about how this movie is only beaten by the Star Wars prequels in terms of, like, really bad, like, it seems like two androids are talking to each other in a lot of scenes. This movie has that same level of, like, two mannequins talking to each other, and that one with Star-Lord and Thor is definitely one of those scenes. And as for, like, the whole, he's stealing their thunder, that also doesn't make sense because the Guardians don't like it when things go sideways and they have to work extra hard for shit. So if Thor was a win button, they would use him.
Not necessarily he noticed them. He's like, I'm going to let them steal the thunder, but that's his own thing.
But he wouldn't do that. Thor wouldn't let people die. Thor would not let people die and get injured while he could help. That's why he got worthy again, because he puts everyone before himself. So it doesn't make any sense. There's no way to justify it, and if we do, it's just making excuses for bad writing.
And here's the thing about more bad writing. I do feel like what you just said there, like Thor and Thor Love and Thunder is a little bit reverting back to Thor 1, in my opinion, where he needs to learn about that stuff, despite him already learning in the first movie.
Thor Finds Himself Part 4 was a running joke that I saw people say about Love and Thunder, where it's like, it's another dumb, like, him finding himself arc, when it could have been everyone's already fine, but they have to deal with this big threat. Would have been way more interesting, kind of like Avengers, but Gore is like the Thanos. But yeah, he also he destroys their building, which is not something he would do. He would not, like, he knows that it's an important thing to them. Anyone with common sense would know that. You and I, going into that scene, would know, I probably shouldn't destroy this massive thing these people built on their own planet. Like, no one just flies into the
lovely building.
But that's what Thor did. He's like, I gotta stop the guys. Let me just, like, destroy that. That's what Thor did.
That's the best comparison.
Yeah, because it means a lot to him. That's like their big thing. I guess it's more like him flying through the White House or something. But it's still
Statue of Liberty, I'd say.
Or flying through the Vatican.
Should I censor that?
Statue of Liberty or the Vatican? Yeah. My point is how offensive it would be to them.
I can't believe that we just learned on this podcast that Thor did 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done the 9/11 joke.
I know there's that comic where there's that one comic where he fought for the Nazis. I know that, but this is too much Thor.
This is too much Thor.
But yeah, so from the start we know that they're going to make Thor silly for the sake of a joke, and we see it over and over again. Also, there's a dumb recurring gag that I didn't like because it makes Thor seem stupid again.
You're talking about the hammer, right?
Yeah, where they imply that he has a relationship with his hammer, or that he talks to it, and even worse, they imply that the hammer is like semi-sentient, which it's not until a recent comic, which everyone despises, where the hammer did actually come to life and its spirit was released, and it was like this glowing godly woman, and she's like, I am Mjolnir, and it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? It was made from a dying star using metal. How would a god come out of that? It's a tool. It's a fucking tool. It's like making a sword, and it was like the dumbest thing ever. But anyway, that could be what they're referencing. I hope not.
But also, pop out there, Snake.
The movie has so many plot holes, guys. Like, there's so many plot holes in Love and Thunder that don't just ruin Love and Thunder, but ruin previous films. Like the fact that the hammer can just reassemble itself if it's needed. Like if Thor gave it a request, like don't let like watch after Jane Foster, like keep her safe, then it will reassemble itself to save Jane Foster. I wonder what world-ending threat could have killed Jane Foster. Maybe Thanos. Maybe it would have reassembled for that reason, if all it cares about is saving Jane Foster. Like, it was such a lazy reason why it came together. They could have actually given Jane a moment and had her somehow use her, like, research abilities and stuff. It's normally science, but she applies her amazing brain and critical thinking to studying Norse mythology, and maybe she finds some way to fix it using a combination of science that Thor doesn't think about. Thor just thinks about, like, magic ways to fix things. They could have had her actually fix the hammer somehow, and that would have been genuinely interesting. But no, it just comes back together. Although the one cool thing we got from it is that made up attack where she can shrapnel it and then call it back, because that's never been a thing in the comics. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool. I do like attack. That. The spreading out rocks.
They also ruin the mystery, because in the comics she keeps her secret from Thor for a while. Okay. Because she doesn't want him to know. So he doesn't know that she's Jane Foster for a bit. He just thinks that it's like female Thor.
Yeah, and they also changed the way the hammer affects her, because it's basically the cancer doesn't affect her while she's Thor, I believe, in the comic.
Yeah.
And so, but when she's on Thor, it starts to the cancer like progresses then. But here it's like, no, using that hammer is killing her. So they took that in a different direction.
I didn't even catch that until I rewatched it. Yeah, like someone told me that. I didn't even catch that lore point that Snake brought up, which is a plot hole, because that means the hammer isn't helping her at all. So if not for Thor's hammer, Jane would still be alive, which means Thor indirectly killed Jane faster, which is fucked up. But the writer didn't think that far ahead, that he unintentionally made Thor a murderer of his own girlfriend. But so yeah, Thor's an idiot. Jane Foster's thing is completely ruined and messed up. Gore is completely ruined as far as.
I'm gonna back up here for a second. Jane Foster's thing, so that power part. But what about Jane Foster as a character? How did you feel about that?
It's fine. They only brought her back to be female Thor, and I knew they were gonna try and kill her off in the movie because her comics didn't sell well. So there's no way they're gonna have her actually step in as the new Thor. I knew they wouldn't, because believe it or not, Chris Hemsworth puts butts in seats. Like whenever you put him in like the movies, he puts asses in seats. So there is no way they're gonna get rid of him. I am a bit sad that Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't included more, but I should have expected that bait and switch, because Ragnarok did the exact same thing. It starts off with like Thor fighting a Norse mythology like god, and then like it just cuts to random nonsense happening somewhere else. So I should have expected that to happen with Love and Thunder.
In Thor 2, the credit scene was that Loki was still alive and he's Odin now. That's the thing that like carried over.
Yeah.
But I agree with that about the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, because like
it was just to get tickets.
In the end of Endgame, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor. Ooh, they needed a movie together before they do this. It would have
been cool.
Honestly.
It would have actually been a lot of fun to have Thor go through the galaxy with the Guardians. Would have been really fun. I guess they were worried about how hard it would be to balance regular people with Thor, because none of them, aside from Groot, are that exceptional.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think that there's only like a couple cool scenes in Love and Thunder with Thor, but that's one big plot hole, is the hammer. The second big plot hole that ruins the entire MCU is the Eternity guy, where the first one to reach eternity gets to like make a wish, and all you need is a way to cross the Rainbow Bridge, which there were so many ways to do that before Asgard got destroyed. Gee, I wonder if there's any villain who wanted to have a huge goal accomplished that could have used that Eternity guy. He's purple. He's got like a wrinkly chin. I wonder if he could have done that instead of collecting all the Infinity Stones. He could have just gotten to eternity by stealing something that has a rose bridge or a rainbow bridge, and then he could have just got there.
My issue with that kind of stuff is like, because like Infinity War is like set up a long time. We've slowly built up to this, and we have a lot of things throughout the way to build up the Infinity Stone and stuff like that. But Phase 4 has been just like, well, actually, there's been a bunch of Black Widows. Actually, the Eternals have been around for that. Actually, Shang-Chi's dad has been like a super crime lord for like thousands of years.
The multiverse.
They've all been around.
Everything you set up all at once. It's like, like the stuff that you could, all the stuff they're doing in Phase 4, you could set that up for like, okay, we'll introduce more of the magic stuff in this phase, and then in Phase 5 we'll go into maybe more of the multiverse stuff, and then we'll introduce this in Phase 6. But it's like all in Phase 4, stuff that really should be spread out over 10 years, instead of being all like in the span of like a couple of years we get all this new stuff that never came up before. And it's like Phase 4 is such a mess. The previous phases were all like, you could see what they were going for with each one, with the setup and then continuing the characters. And then Phase 3, it's like introduce some of the new characters who are going to carry on after like the main Avengers that starts to phase out, as well as like setting up like the final steps of the Infinity Saga. You can see what each one was for. Phase 4 is just ideas, throw them all in.
And what bothers me too, I just thought of a better answer. I thought of a better solution, and I just thought of it, which means like this whole writing team couldn't even think of this. They can keep eternity. All they had to do is make it that the weapon that Gore has, like the Godslayer, could actually hurt eternity and give him like the power to kill all the gods, like in one foul swoop or something. Just that, because that would explain why no one else cared to visit eternity, because they couldn't do anything with it. Eternity is this unkillable, invincible being, except that Gore stumbled upon the one weapon that can actually either kill him and give him his powers or hurt him and drain his powers so that he can, like, you know, use it to kill all the gods. Like, that's an easy workaround. But no,
dog.
they chose. Go ahead.
They have to revive the daughter.
They don't. That never happens in the comics. She's dead as fuck. She stays
like,
dead.
The movie wants to do that. Is what I mean.
It didn't need to. I get the point though, because the whole plot of the film was love is more important than hate. I guess is what they were trying to go for. So the idea is that in the end, choosing love saved everybody, and Thor imparting the wisdom onto Gore that, hey, what you really want is your daughter back. You don't want like to kill everybody, but that's wrong, Sonic. Gore doesn't just want his daughter back. Gore wants his entire people back. But the writer's so stupid, he forgot that too. And so he only revived his daughter when he could have done anything. Remember, any wish goes. He could have wished that all of his people were back to life, but the writer's so stupid that he forgot that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep calling him stupid because he's just a bad writer when it comes to this story. But yeah.
I got a nitpick that I actually was kind of annoyed too. At the end, when all the kids got like the powers, it's like, okay, I'm not a big fan of that stuff too. It's just like, yeah, we got powers
that was
now.
dumb.
We can all be Thor. And that kind of.
I know why
message.
it happened though. I know why they did it. It was stupid, but I know why they did it, Sonic. I think they were trying to hint there that he's transitioned from Thor into King Thor, which is a character in the comics, and only the king can bestow powers onto people because Odin is the one who put that enchantment on the hammer that said anyone who's worthy has the power of Thor. I think they're trying to imply that Thor has now reached that level somehow where he can now enchant stuff and be like, okay, anyone, should they be worthy for a limited time, can have the powers of Thor. The dumb part is they don't have Thor's powers. They're just like powered up kids. They're not like like if there's that many Thors in the room, it would be over instantly because that many Thors would be like impossible to contain. Like they'd win instantly. But instead they're more like powered up kids because don't forget, Thor, when he first fought Gore, like soloed him. It wasn't even a hard fight. He like choke slammed Gore, and Gore had to retreat because he lost like so convincingly there. Yet later on, when they're all three attacking him, he's somehow holding his own, which makes no sense. He's as strong or as weak as the plot needs. Are you talking about the
black and white planet part?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, Gore kind of like had a motive. Like he was trying to get Thor to use the Bifrost so he can just steal it.
Well, I just meant that he didn't die instantly because there's three gods like laying into him. He should have been like done. If Thor could solo him, then he should have been like done instantly. Also, one last rant because we can't go on forever.
Isn't it because they're in like that dark dimension it makes him stronger for the last two fights?
Something like that. I kind of remember that too.
There's no reason why it should, but I guess they could say that. If they maybe the film did establish that, but it shouldn't make anyone else weaker.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, I feel like I think it mentioned that it makes him stronger, and that's why he can go toe to toe with them there. Whereas on Earth, he didn't have that advantage. I think that was suggestive. I don't quite.
Yeah, but then he's somewhere else with the kids, right? The kids are prisoned somewhere else. So at the very least, he should still lose really hard when they're saving the kids, right? Because he's not powered up anymore by Moon Planet, by like Black and White World.
At the end, right? When
they should still solo him there because he's just a dude.
I don't remember where the finale takes place. It could have been in that dimension. It might not have, but.
Now, for the record, if it was actual Gore from the comics, then he'd just be a threat the whole time because he's that powerful in the comics that I think at one point he beats Thor so bad. It's like a younger version of Thor in the past, but he beats Thor so bad that Thor's like almost like gone nonsensical and is like low-key begging to not be killed because he's been beaten so badly that he's like, oh, spare me. And that's very uncommon for Thor to say stuff like that. So he was beaten so bad that he was actually asking for mercy in the comics. But so yeah, my other big gripe, that this one I'll never forget.
Let me add one thing too, by the way.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, because you just mentioned that moon fight. I will say that's probably the best fight and scene in the whole movie. I think that was really cool and creative the way like that whole fight went. Just like whoa, like no colors and also just a little bit of colors coming in, stuff like that. Really cool fight. I like that one.
I also don't remember if Gore can actually summon monsters in the comics or not. It's a cool ability, and maybe he does it, but in the comics he's so tough by himself normally that you can't even step to him.
Well, every villain needs minions so that the heroes have someone else to beat up and show how cool they are.
Well, and I was going to say it's a low-key cool reference because the sword is a creation of Null, who's the god of dark, and he made the symbiote.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so it could be...
why is it, Dog, that when you talk about Thor at length, you keep saying low-key? Like, do you not see the pun there? Is this intentional?
I do now, but listen, okay, yeah, you're right, it's funny.
So my
big thing that really... I try my best to be very respectful when I'm watching movies in theaters. I don't do the clapping thing. I I try to not be disruptive, right? So if I am,
sorry to interrupt you one more time. Is it an American thing that you guys are really loud and clapping at like Marvel films?
actually, I would say it's a bit toned down in America. If you go to like other countries, I've seen like the reactions in China. I've seen people pop the fuck off like in China like the whole time. And in the Philippines, it's like normal. When I was in the Philippines for a bit, like watching films, it's normal to have conversations the whole time, like during the film. Like there's no like, at least in America, there's the rule that you should shush most of the time.
Yeah.
So you should shush most of the time. But the clapping thing started at some point, like with Spider-Man 3 and stuff. Was the first time I saw people clap at a cool part in the film. I think it's just everyone celebrating when something cool happens together. They're not actually dumb enough to think the actors can hear them clapping. They're just doing it to like celebrate together.
I've heard other YouTubers that I like to, they're like they never want to go watch like Marvel films in movie theaters because it's like the Marvel crowd is always very obnoxious and just like, oh, look at that, kind of a thing. So really hyping things up. So
they go to Omnipotence Land or whatever, right, in Love and Thunder, which is already stupid because that's not a place. But they go to like Omnipotence Land, and that's already double dumb because there are beings in the Marvel universe who are quote unquote omnipotent. They have like universal knowledge and are aware of all things happening at once. Galactus is one such being. Galactus knows at any given time what's happening everywhere. It's one of his like gifts as being like one of the ancient beings, right? So there are actually omnipotent beings. So going to like the omnipotence world doesn't make any sense. But they go there and all these powerful gods all hang out, which doesn't make sense because why would there be the mythology of like, the idea is that all these gods are what inspired Earthlings' mythology, right? So the reason that Thor has a mythos on Earth is because he's visited Earth enough that they know who Thor is, right? And stuff like that. Same with the Greek gods. They have Olympus and all that in Greece. So why would there be some city where they all live? They never would have gone to Earth. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. The part that got an actual...
They gotta find a way to not... why they haven't been in the MCU for this long.
Exactly,
like
it's a plot device. And also need a reason for why all the gods are there to like rally together. But basically, what got an actual auditory like sound out of me is when they announced that Zeus is going to be showing up. And I was like, dude, I can't wait to see Zeus because in the comics, Zeus is one of the few people who can just tell Hulk to sit the fuck down, which he's done multiple times. Like, he's one-shot Hulk, and he hit him. It was just a regular punch, but it did so much damage to Hulk that he couldn't even heal and was left like healing at a normal rate like a human for like a week because it was a punch from Zeus. That's how tough Zeus is, right? And he's also an uncaring bastard, just like in the Greek mythology, right? And so they announced that Thor's coming. I mean, Zeus, and I'm so ready to see Zeus, right? And then what do we get? We get a joke. Oh, he's fat. He's middle-aged. Oh, he got the thunderbolt. Which, by the way, Taika Waititi, Zeus doesn't make thunderbolts. That's someone else who does that. Zeus can do everything else, but he never actually summons lightning. So when he makes that joke going, well, what is thunder except the sound after lightning, eh? And I'm like, Zeus has never been like, unless you're a real idiot, like who doesn't do any research, Zeus is not the god of lightning. Zeus is the god of pretty much everything. Zeus can turn you into a constellation if he wants to. That's one of his actual powers. He can shapeshift
represented
too.
by lightning, though, to be fair.
He doesn't make lightning.
I mean, he's represented.
Hephaestus does that. He just throws the bolts. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like, everyone thinks of him that way. But I'm just saying, like, the fact the writer didn't do enough research to know that he's not considered the god of lightning is, like, bothersome to me. Because that's not what he actually is. But it's whatever. I was just hoping that he'd be an imposing force, because he is. He's actually, like, shit yourself in the comics when he shows up, right? But he's a joke. Zeus, he's fat. He gets one shot by the thunderbolt randomly hitting him, and then he falls down. And he's not dead, at least by the end of the film, they reveal. But what's even dumber is they show Hercules, pretty much, right? Like his son. And it's supposed to be some big threat to Thor. And I'm like, what are you doing, writer? You've already established that Zeus isn't even a threat. So why would his half-human son be a threat to anybody if it's just half of Zeus's powers? Like, what are you doing? And also they're friends in the comics. Like, Hulk and Thor and Hercules are all friends because Hercules hates Zeus's guts. That's a normal thing in Greek mythology, that Hercules hates Zeus because he raped his mother. They didn't even get that right. Like, it's so profoundly ignorant, the entire film, of like any of the lore, that it really bothers me. It's just for jokes. But that's when I saw Zeus come in and he was like fat and like, I went, ah! I did that audibly in the theater. I just like out loud did that. I was like, ah! And my girlfriend went, do you not like that actor? Do you not like him? That's what my girlfriend thought. She's like, do you just hate the actor? I'm like, the actor's fine. He's super famous. I just can't stand that they went for the most low-hanging fruit possible, which is that the god above all is a joke. Because it makes no sense. Why would everybody follow him if he's a joke? If Thor can one-shot him, why is he the god above all that everyone respects if he can't do cool stuff? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I did like that at least Thor was cool in that scene. Like, he's able to hold his own and fight back and all that. I found it cool. I love when he caught the thunderbolt because he's the god of lightning, so like, or thunder. So he caught it. I liked that. That was cool to me. I like the joke, too, that when he was stripped naked, all the people fainted because he's just so hot. That was funny to me. Because I was worried when I heard that he gets naked in the film. I was worried it would be a scene of him like all embarrassed, like oh, and everyone laughing and pointing at him or something. But it was the opposite. Thor even says later on, like, I wasn't embarrassed. I was naked, which I'm fine with. And I'm like, yeah, why would he not be okay with being naked when he's that sculpted and also thousands of years old? I really doubt he cares about being seen naked when he's that old. So that's the one time his character was actually correct. But
you mentioned about that fan service. I think even when I went back and watching Thor 1 and 2, it's like they had that like Chris Hemsworth really buff fan service there too.
Yeah, it's become a meme now because Marvel said they're not going to objectify female characters, but then Thor's ass. Like, it's just such a funny like one-sided thing. I don't mind fan service. Do it both directions. I don't care. But I did know they're never going to do it back. We're never gonna see like we even see Master Chief naked in that terrible Halo series that happened, right? We see his ass cheeks. I know we're never gonna see Samus in a shower scene. We're never gonna see Samus like from Nintendo, like another prominent game character. We're never gonna see her ass. We're never gonna see Lara Croft taking a shower.
Nintendo we're talking about here, but I get what you mean. Yeah, we'll see Bayonetta though.
Well, even like Lara Croft, we're not gonna see her naked ass like when she's in a film. They're not gonna do that, but we're gonna see men's naked booties all the time. I think it's okay though, because it was a funny joke that when Zeus was like, should I reveal them too? And they go, nope, and they just like take their robes off. Nope, we're good, because they don't want to lose all their clothing.
Yeah. I like that joke too.
I had one final joke that one final thing I wanted to say about that scene, but I'm brain farting on it. Why did Zeus have the power to flick stuff away? What is that referencing?
You mean flick? Like the? Oh, you mean like how he blew off? Didn't you just said that Zeus had the ability to do like a lot of stuff?
He does, but why does he never do anything cool like that again? Because that is supposed to show how strong he is, that he can just like do this and it like rips your clothes off. So shouldn't that mean he could like force push or something? Like, what is that referencing? What power even was that to flick clothes away?
Remember, Zeus is a serial philanderer. That's what he does.
He's
to
an orgy
the women.
Man, yeah.
He's
another
like,
orgy joke.
And then
Taika Waititi, of course.
So Hercules should be like, I don't appreciate you doing that. You did that when you did the thing. You know, I don't like that.
Zeus can even shapeshift, so it could have been a fun reveal that like he just takes that form for some weird reason, and then when an actual fight happens, he just like turns into real Zeus. That could have been a funny reference.
He enjoys smiting people, so he likes to give people a setup to be to give him a reason. It's like so someone's going to come up and go, I could take Zeus, and he's like, you sure?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking would be funny too.
You sure about that?
Because like Zeus has such a cool line in the comics, man. It's one of my favorite lines ever when he's fighting Hulk, where Hulk realizes he can't win. He thought he could, and Hulk goes like, fine, like do what you want to with me, but at least keep your promise and save my friends. And Zeus is like, save your friends. And then like even Hera goes, you would sacrifice yourself to save the people you love. And then Zeus even steps forward and goes, sacrificing your own body for the sake of others' sins. And then he punches Hulk as hard as he can and spikes him all the way back down Olympus, and he yells, wrong religion! Which I thought was so fucking sick.
That's right.
One of my favorite lines, like, in the comic. It was so fucking raw. And yet what we get in the film is like, we get Bo Rai Cho if he was Zeus, is what we get in the fucking Love and Thunder movie.
I'm excited to see him in the Legends movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm looking forward to the Bo Rai Cho solo movie about alcoholism and the endurance of the human spirit.
I also found it kind of weird that like Thor didn't even try to stop Gore when they were in the realm, because I get that like whoever reaches eternity first gets to have the wish, but you can still just cover his mouth. There's nothing, you can still stop him in a variety of ways. You can even like rip his jaw off because you're Thor. You could like do any number of ways to incapacitate him, and then you don't have to even take care of Jane, because guess who's right there? Eternity. You can just go, I wish Gore as a person never lost his people and his daughter, and it would undo everything, and then like, it would all be fine.
I thought you were gonna say, I wish Gore as a person never lost his virginity.
Oh my god.
Which does sound like a Waititi kind of joke to make, oddly enough.
It's like that joke I made that if Kronika, so I made that joke on Twitter that if Johnny Cage wore a condom, then Shinnok would have conquered Earth. But someone else made a joke saying like, but my original joke was different. My original joke that I knew would be too like long-winded for a Twitter joke was that all Kronika had to do was travel back in time and get Johnny Cage to fuck someone besides Sonya, and that would also mean Shinnok wins. But I thought the condom would be funnier. But then my friend went a step further and said, no, even better. She travels back in time and tells him, just jerk off tonight. And like, so he just rubs one out, or even better, she goes back and she has sex with like Johnny Cage instead, so he's satisfied and doesn't want to like sleep with Sonya. Like, there's so many ways that just that one change could have like made it to where she gets her perfect timeline, where Shinnok and Cetrion are both alive and whatever. But yeah, hopefully now, I know I just picked a couple of like big moments, but hopefully people understand why I get so offended at Love and Thunder when it's clearly it's a parody of Thor. It's not even taking it in like a fun way. It's laughing at you, not with you as a Thor fan. It's not laughing with you. It's making fun of the things that you like and shitting on them for the sake of a joke. It almost feels like I would have rather someone, like if I was a little kid, I would rather have a bully beat me up for like having a comic book than what Taika Waititi did to me as a fan, where he took a character I like and shit all over them. I'd rather be beaten up for my fanaticism than have it ripped from me and twisted and parodied into something else, because he clearly doesn't care enough. And did you hear that famous line that came out recently where Chris Hemsworth said that him and Waititi said it was written like a 7-year-old wrote it and that was their goal?
Really? I didn't hear that.
That's a famous line that came out. Yeah, they wrote it like a 7-year-old.
The movie was supposed to be like 4 hours, so they cut it short like a lot. That's what I've heard that.
I don't know where directors get all these extra like, because usually when I made films as a kid, like you realize how hard it is to make a movie long. Like it's actually kind of hard to create that much like
they
that
said
many
the same
scenes.
thing in the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie too, if I recall. Like,
so I don't get how they make movies intentionally long, because that seems just like hard to do.
I want to add something as a closing thought that I think is kind of funny. About a year ago, I think it was the first podcast that we did on my channel, we talked about the 2021 movie. I feel like now we're kind of switched, because back when we were discussing that, True Underdog, you weren't as mad to the 2020 movie. It's like, okay, it has problems, but like I still enjoyed it, 6 out of 10. And we were the ones like kind of shit talking it like hugely. Now I think it's reverted. Now we're just like, it's fine, 6 out of 10. And you're like,
that's fair, but here's my reasoning. That's fair, but here's why I have that like flip flop. So Marvel knows that the comics, when adapted correctly from the comics, are still very good films. They've had like 20 films to prove that when you adapt the story faithfully, people love it. So there's no reason to like shit on it. The Mortal Kombat films, aside from one, have had a terrible track record of reception. So the writers aren't sure, like the movie writers who are for some reason like they never hire game writers to help them out. They for some reason only have what they think would work. So that all those things they did like the Arcana, because they think we're too stupid to comprehend that Liu Kang learned how to make fire through like his training. We're too dumb to accept that Johnny Cage learned how to throw like or summon green energy. We're too dumb to know that, so they have to make up a universal reason why the powers show up. It's a dumb decision, but at least I understand why they did it. But like with the Thor Love and Thunder, it really does just seem like whenever there's a chance to make a joke or rip on the character or just like have fun at like the story's expense, he went for it, and that's where all the jokes and stuff come from. There's one more plot hole I think that I wanted to mention too that I'm it's on the tip of my tongue. I had it and then we forgot about it because we mentioned the 2021. It was the one last thing I was going to bring up as one more big massive plot hole.
Valkyrie, the new Asgard,
oh yeah, the good one. So they mentioned Valhalla at one point, and Thor makes an actually pretty funny joke that I thought was actually, it would have been better if he meant it as a joke and wasn't being dumb literal clown man. But he jokes with Sif like, well, actually, if you die now, like the battle's already happened, so you won't actually go into Valhalla, but your arm might be there. I thought that was funny because the arm like got lost like in the middle of the fight.
But I think she was like, anyway, shit.
What's dumb is that either the writer is bad, again, like he's stupid and incompetent, or Thor is stupid, either one, because we see at the end, like at the post-credits, Valhalla is a place, exists. And guess who's all there? Tons of people who didn't die in battle, including Odin, who just died staring at the ocean, and then Jane Foster.
Hang on a second.
Yep.
Wasn't it only Heimdall?
I don't remember Odin being there.
I don't remember anyone else except Heimdall.
Oh, maybe I was lied to. I didn't watch the post-credit scene. I walked out.
Wasn't
Jane there? Wasn't Jane Foster there?
It's her perspective. She arrives, and then Heimdall's there to greet her, and it's like, here we are. But
she definitely didn't die in battle.
I think it's clear what this is setting up, though, is that because think about this: what happened to Jane in the comics after she stopped being Thor?
Don't know. I didn't read them.
She became Valkyrie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So clearly she's going to become a Valkyrie. And then in one of the future films, she will come back as Valkyrie. Maybe with the other Valkyries, then you'll get that bit where the main Valkyrie, who I don't even know if they're giving her a name or not, she will be reunited with her lover, the improbable lesbian, who was also one of the Valkyries. She'll be reunited, they'll be happy. And then Jane will come back and fight alongside Thor, but now as a Valkyrie. And it'd be that's what they're setting up after Thor's had his big fight with Hercules, and I pray they do like they did in the comic, where they both switch costumes and kick each other in the nuts over and over again. Because that was yes, they had a fight in the comics around like the mid to late 2000s where they swapped clothes and just kept kicking each other in the nuts. I think Thor does it first. He's like fuck this and just kicks him in the nuts, or Hercules kicks him in the nuts, and they just keep doing it. And there's even these kids watching like this is dumb.
It does sound like recent Marvel, where they think they're so funny and clever, and they're so clever that they have the side characters mention that it's dumb, and that's supposed to like make it okay that it's a stupid scene. But wait, were they trying to fake it? Is that why they were like switching costumes? Were they trying to like take a dive or something?
I think there might have been. I think there might have been an element like that. I think so.
There must be, because I'm guessing that Thor, or like Hercules dressed as Thor, like pretends to like win, and because Thor is dressed like Hercules, he can do more amazing feats. Whereas if they had like been in their normal outfits, like it wouldn't be convincing for Hercules to win, because he can't do any near the feats that like Thor can do. Like Hercules is way weaker than Thor.
It may have been something like that, yeah.
I see.
It's like when one time Batman and Superman switched costumes, and Superman soloed Batman's enemies because they were really confused. Like Bane was like, "I break your back," and then Superman just picked him up, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa!" And he just chucked him, and he was like super confused.
They did that a
like,
lot, actually. Yeah, Batman and Superman switching the costume stuff.
It's because in the comics they're homies. Batman and Superman are homeboys, but for some reason in the films they gotta keep hating each other. But they're like good friends in the actual.
In the animated
comic
stuff, they're also homies too, from what I've seen. The thing about Valhalla you said was actually seems pretty right there, Snake. I thought Valhalla was just to bring back like a lot of the dead characters from Asgard.
But Jane Foster shouldn't be there. She didn't die in combat.
Well,
so is Thor an idiot, or did the writer forget?
In my opinion, I think it's just gonna be everybody who died in like Ragnarok are gonna come back. Like the other three that died. I don't remember their names. All I remember was
the Warriors three. They don't have names. They're just the Warriors three.
Are they there? Were they at least in Valhalla or not?
We didn't see them. We don't see them in the.
I assume they will be. I assume they will show up, and then you have a big thing where it's like Thor and all of his friends getting to have a big battle against someone or something. Maybe the Midgard serpent will show up. But
bring back Raiden.
But that's also the same film where Loki shows up and he's like, "I'm alive, brother," and Thor's like, "Again."
Loki should be there. Loki should be in Valhalla because he got killed by Thanos in combat. He should be there.
Oh, maybe.
Loki should be in Valhalla.
Well, that's the thing, because how does the Loki of the show, who is the one from the Avengers...
That's a different timeline.
I don't care. To me, Loki never happened. I didn't watch that terrible show.
I thought that was good, though.
It's garbage.
It was pretty bad. It's one of the things that kind of ruined everything that came before.
It's a parody just like Love and Thunder. It's just like... It doesn't care about the character. It just did whatever it wanted and wanted to be silly, and it sucks.
It had some interesting ideas.
If it had been anybody but Loki, it would have been cool. But the fact that Loki, this like god who's crazy strong, we know for a fact that Loki's so strong that when like Captain America attacked him, it was a joke. Like it did nothing to him. But yet like regular people are like grabbing him and dragging him around, and it's like... I
think the best part of that show was just the concept of a time traveler is trying to avoid detection. Where do you hide? A place in time where your actions have zero consequence. An apocalypse. You go to an apocalyptic event, and no matter what you do, it's not going to affect anything. Like if you because if they figured out by going to Pompeii, it's like, well, if you disrupt the timeline in Pompeii, everyone's going to die. It doesn't matter. That's a cool idea.
Because they're going to die anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, very solid idea. The rest of the show not very good. It's weird that they're apparently doing a season 2.
They are going to do a season 2. Not even with the original person who made the first season, from what I've heard.
Oh damn. You know what's dumb too? They could have actually saved the Loki thing by not having it be Craig. or Crane. What's his name again?
Crane, I think
blue,
so,
He's
yeah.
blue. He's
Crane,
blue in the
yeah.
comics, but here he's just a dude. Thanos was purple, but for some reason Crane can't be blue. But
I think Crane's gonna be a main villain in like
Well,
another movie.
he
or
is. He's going to be the
something,
final
right?
Avengers guy they showed. Yeah, they.
Yeah.
they showed
I imagine he will be blue, the final version, because I think there are versions of Kang who just look human. I think it's Immortus who in the comics is white, but so I think this is like a similar idea. He can be like a black dude or what have you, but the main proper one will likely be blue.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You know what bothered me though? Y'all probably don't know this character. Y'all probably don't know who this is, but when I saw that the whole plot of Loki was like him being stuck in like this weird bunch of realities that are kind of like a pseudo TV show or something, right?
TV show is more Wanda, but I get what you mean. Yeah, the
He
TV.
do- he does-
Oh,
he
I
does-
thought they were showing.
He does get trapped at one point in like
An entertainment kind of thing, or no?
The Infinite.
It's like a
with
memory.
Sif slapping him.
Yeah, because
A memory. Oh, okay,
because
never mind then. Okay.
you know the mythology story where he cut off Sif's hair. That happened in the MCU.
Yeah.
And so he's stuck on repeat, which keeps coming in and slapping him in revenge for it. And that's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I haven't seen Sif since she showed up in like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 2. I wonder where she's been, what she's been up to.
I didn't even know what she shows up there. Okay.
Yeah, she
I don't
shows
watch
up in,
Agents of Shield. But so here's what I'm wrong then. But see, what I thought like is that he was stuck like in a bunch of realities. It was like a cool reveal would have been that like it was actually this like vast entertainment trap. Like people are watching him suffer and are having like fun with it because there's actually a villain in Marvel Comics who does that.
Oh, Mojo.
He creates a bunch of different he creates a bunch of different entertainment realities and stuff, and like he watches all of it. If he had been the
Well-
grand reveal of the villain, that would have been such a sick ass pull, and it would have been like an amazing reveal because he's actually genuinely
That would be
terrifying if you
actually
Google
very
him.
interesting.
I
Sonic.
don't-
He's scary looking.
I don't know if they could have done that though, because that is an X-Men character. So yeah.
Well, they have X-Men now. They have Fox.
Yeah, but
they have X-Men
I
now.
think
They're just
when the
lazy.
show was going into production, they were planning it all out. I don't think they did at the time. But yeah,
And
Mojo
he
would
doesn't
be
have to
a
be an
cool
X-Man.
thing.
He could be anything because I don't think Mojo is technically a mutant. I think
No,
Mojo is
no,
a different
but
race of
he
creature.
he's an X-Men character. So
So is Scarlet Witch.
Well, she's like half that and half Avengers. That was the loophole for her and Quicksilver.
But she's still an X-Man though. She's Magneto's daughter.
yeah. Well,
But I
not,
get what you
well,
mean.
not anymore. But maybe she will be again in a few years because they keep
But I'm
retconning
saying
that.
Mojo could have been the same thing. They could have detached
Yeah.
Mojo from X-Men the same way they detached Scarlet Witch. But it would have been an epic reveal that like the person torturing Loki and laughing at him go through all this nonsense would have been Mojo for like the ultimate reality TV show. That could have been an
I
amazing
didn't even
twist.
know Mojo existed. He looks really cool,
Yeah.
actually.
I think Mojo could
He's terrifying, yeah.
I think Mojo could have been an interesting villain for What If, like if he was the one proposing these stipulations.
That would have been too good.
So he's like,
good.
it's like my people, my viewers, you have seen these events, but what if this happened instead? So it's like that could have been cool, but nah, it's just like how
Okay.
about interdimensional Ultron? Like nah.
Dog, you haven't seen What If yet, right?
I have not. And I'm pretty much done with my thoughts on Love and Thunder, so
Yeah, we
y'all
can make our
rest easy
closing
on
thoughts
that.
about Love and Thunder, basically.
I like the part where Thor shows up in that one suit of armor for one scene, so they can sell toys, and he never wears it again. That the blue and gold one, which looks pretty
It plays
good.
on that one joke from Infinity War, or no, Endgame, when he can summon clothing with the hammer, which is like a made-up thing in that movie, where he just goes like, well as long
I
as
mean,
we're in agreement.
Technically, he did that in the first Avengers film, although it was just
guess
like
he did.
the armor. But
He throws
just
off
the
his
scales.
cloak in the second movie and just has the armor. Yeah, I actually liked his vest in the very beginning when he was at the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he never wore that again too.
That was to sell toys also.
It's
So
the
yeah.
most commercial Thor film. I'll say that.
It's your what do you call it? It's the model that the figure that you picked for your Twitter post from what I recall.
It's this movie is the Batman and Robin of Thor movies, you might say.
By the way, that figure, like that skin, is the one they added into Fortnite recently, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I want to kind of end this off, I guess, because Snake, you ranked them just then. I would like to rank them a bit too. Ragnarok is like the best, in my opinion, and then it goes a bit more down. And I don't hate the original two Thor movies as much as people give it, but I will say it's 4, and I like 2 more than 1, just a teeny bit, then 2 and then 1. My criteria is, am I gonna take like hit or miss humor and relatable stuff constantly in 4, or am I gonna take dragging out stories and stuff and explaining that 1 and 2 have? Like that's the
I don't
balance.
get how 4 is relatable, but okay.
But that's kind of like the balance between what I rather want. It's a bit closer than I expected. I thought I was gonna hate Thor 2, but when I watched it again, I was like, it really isn't that bad, and I really did like the action. But like so much explaining, so much dragging on. I would not want to watch that again immediately because it's just like I don't need to really because it's like okay, we don't need to go at that.
I think the worst part of Love and Thunder is the name. They should have called it 1, 2, 3 Thor.
That's cute. I quite like that. What about you?
My only
I was gonna say your ranking. Yeah, your ranking for the Thor movies.
Me?
Snake
No,
or
I was asking your ranking of the Thor movies.
I did mine.
Yeah, I meant for dog.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My bad. Sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Well, I mean, I would. So Love and Thunder again. Like, the main reason I hate Love and Thunder and don't even want to rank it, I want to just pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
Is because it really does seem like the writers really did say like, fuck the fans, fuck the comics, fuck the lore. We're gonna
If
do
you
whatever
like
we want to with
Asgard,
this
fuck
movie.
that. Yeah.
No,
Basically.
anything. None of it's correct. Zeus is wrong. Gore is wrong. Eternity's handled wrong. Like none of it's correct. Like it's all made up. Even female Thor is wrong. Like it's all incorrect. So like I throw it out. It's a parody. It's like a comedy parody of a film. It's like Spaceballs, but for Thor. Like, and I love Spaceballs, but Spaceballs was honest that it was a parody. It didn't pretend to be Star Wars. This film pretends to be Thor when what it actually is a parody, right? So get rid of it. Thor 1, I'd want to see done better, but like Thor 1 is only boring because all the films that came after. Like Iron Man 1 is boring if you try to rewatch it. It's also super dull if you try to rewatch it for the most
Sure,
part.
but I think that's a way better story in genre. Yeah, but anyways.
Well, yeah, but Iron Man's a really compelling story. It's like the ultimate, like, I'm not saying because of my name. It's the ultimate underdog story of, like, being in a cave and literally defeating terrorists with scraps of metal. Like, who can't love it?
And also, Tony
it's
Stark
great.
is a great character. Like, he's funny and he's an asshole. Like, people love him.
Actually, a large part of that goes to Robert Downey Jr. because
Yes,
Tony Stark
yeah.
is not like that in the comics.
What he wasn't.
He's way more boring and straight man.
Yeah.
Because they're copying Tony Stark. Exactly. Yeah. They're copying, Downey Jr. because he was not that charismatic in the comics. He's more like Batman, but a bit not as he's a bit funnier than Batman, but he was way more straight guy. Whereas then he's more funny and yeah, you get it. So I wouldn't even rank Love and Thunder at all. I would say that Dark World is not a great movie at all, but at least it has some compelling parts in it, like when Thor's mother dies. It's like handled dramatically as well.
Yeah.
There's not a fart joke to like ruin it, which like TT would have fucking done. You know he would have. He would have had Thor's mom get killed. Then the Rocket would have gone, oh no, Thor's mom. Another person that died that Thor knows. Man, people die around you, Thor. Like, he would have fucking done that shit.
That's
he would have.
the exact thing he would have said. That is the exact dialogue he would have had, actually, yeah. You're spot on.
And I can't believe they didn't have the balls to kill off that character, because that was like the only part of the film where I was like, oh, look, shit got real. Like, someone actually died. It's sad. And he even goes like, Thor, like, as he's dying. So it's kind of like you feel bad for him. But they couldn't even kill him off because it's a silly Billy film about silly Billy nonsense, so no one dies.
Wouldn't it be hilarious because he's played by Waititi? If Waititi was like, I'm going to kill off the character I play, it's going to be this big gut punch. But then like Marvel marketing, like, no, you can't do that. We need to sell more toys for the next film. And so it's like, fine, I won't kill off the character I play. I will let you have this.
It's possible.
You know what could have been a good joke actually about that? They could have killed off whatever that guy's name is. I already forgot his name, the Rockman. They could have killed him off and then had them meet another Rockman who is suspiciously identical to him. Then they realize, oh, they're just all like this. Like they're all like that. And he's like, hello, hey,
that would be a funny guy.
Hello.
Oh no, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse than the next one because he's got that lover and they're having a kid. That kid's going to be a character in the next film. Oh,
it's going to be all three of them. They're all three going to be in the scene.
That's going to be the next tiny group.
Hey man, this is my husband. This is my son. We're all here now. We're all going to be in this film for the entire runtime.
I like Korg from Ragnarok, you know? Like, he was funny there. I don't know about him being
because
a main
he wasn't a main character.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Continue, dog.
Yeah, so I was saying Dark World has that dramatic scene where the mom is killed, and then even better, has one of my favorite scenes where Loki is like using his like illusions to pretend like he doesn't care. And then he's like,
I like that
get real,
too,
Loki, and then he drops it, and he's destroyed the room. He's had like a tantrum because he couldn't get out of the room
Loki.
to help.
Yeah.
And he's like, now you see me, brother. That's a good scene. That's a genuinely good scene. And when they team up, they're never trustworthy of each other. Like they pretend to be, but you get the feeling like they're still not sure. Up until the final moment, even you, the audience, aren't sure. You think he actually did chop off like Thor's hand and betray him again. You're like, oh shit. And then like all these things Ragnarok does again, but just not as well. Like they have the whole Thor Loki team up again, but it doesn't have the oomph because it's already been done in Dark World, and in Dark World they came together over their mother's death to like get revenge, whereas in Ragnarok it's just because I guess they're brothers or something, so they're teaming up.
Yeah, they kind of made up in Ragnarok more. Yeah, that was the point. Yeah.
So it's whatever, I suppose. Does Loki even do very many of his like illusion powers anymore? I'm thinking he actually doesn't.
Ragnarok is the start of nerf to Loki. I will admit
shit,
that,
right?
sadly.
He doesn't do the dumb like where he gets tossed by Thor to like distract people.
He does have illusions.
Well, yeah, he
does
pretends
do
to be
illusions.
dead, right? And it's like, oh, my brother, help him. It's like he could just create an illusion of him being dead, and they would see that. He could create an illusion that they're both dead in the elevator together, like they killed each other. Like that would trick people.
Well, they just want to knock out the guards, I guess. So
again,
that's
Taika
what's the
Waititi
joke.
doesn't. He's not a good writer. I'm just gonna he doesn't know. Like he really doesn't know. I think that one film he did that was so great is like Lightning in a Bottle because it fits his writing style perfectly of like a kid's perception of horrible events happening. But when it's
Jojo Rabbit.
yeah, but when it's done to other stuff, I just don't think.
Have you seen other than his Marvel stuff like Taika Waititi?
I just know about how good it is. Like I've seen like clips and I'm like, this seems really good and like very interesting.
I would say he's one of those directors that's like he makes really great art films on his own, but like he needs the money, so that's why Marvel hires him kind of like that. So he kind of says it before, like one for me, one for them. That's kind of like why he takes Marvel films. I would suggest some of his own movies because he is actually a pretty great director.
Directing is fine. The movies don't have bad direction. Like they have like good cinematography and like the layouts are fine and all that. It's just the writing is so unreal. I think it's because when he writes his own story, like he's building it himself, so it's easy for him to like make a really good story. But to write a Marvel film, you have to also research all the Marvel stuff, and I don't think he does that.
Yeah,
I don't think he tries.
that I agree with. Yeah,
That's the issue. So in that regard, he's a bad writer as far as like adapting a story that already exists and also handling it with the care that you need to. Even to make a parody, you still have to appreciate like the stuff, and it's clear that he really doesn't. He just wanted to make a goofy, silly film, and thank God I knew about the screaming goats in advance. Because that would have been like killing me too, like to think how stupid that was. I think that's included because the actress who plays Valkyrie loves goats. She's mentioned it before in a couple of interviews that she loves goats. Yeah, her character is dumb too in Love and Thunder. She's almost not a character at all. She just stands around most of the time. Even like when she's the leader of like Asgard, she's just wearing like a hoodie and doing fuck all. Like, didn't Thor give her the position because he thought she'd actually care and she'd be a good leader? But then like the joke is that, oh, I actually hate being a leader. So once again, either Waititi forgot why Thor did that, or Thor's dumb and Thor can't do shit, including pick a leader. Like nothing about the film works, like to me, aside from like it's silly and goofy.
So what was your ranking for the films?
I don't really know if I could rank them because I have to think about them all in depth. I would say Thor 1 is better than Dark World only because Dark World, like you said, has some really bad pacing issues. But that being said, I think I'd still rather watch Dark World. So if it's just my personal ranking and not like objectively which one's a better film, I would rather watch Dark World than the first Thor movie because very little happens in the first Thor movie, like you said, because they're setting stuff up. And then Ragnarok is a fun movie too. Like it's fine. I'd probably watch it too over the first Thor movie, but I just think it's way too highly praised, and I don't like how it dumped on certain things that it takes reference from. Like it handles a lot of the characters very poorly. It gives them a very terrible send-off with the Warriors 3, who are like Thor's best friends, and he doesn't seem to give a shit that they're dead. And Hela's not correct. Like her motivation's all wrong, her relationship's wrong, all that. Odin dying was kind of weird because I'm pretty sure Odin's still around for a long time in the comics until like Thor finally takes over.
I guess the actor just doesn't want to play him anymore, or maybe they just don't. Yeah,
well, they need some plot reason. That's the issue with like these films. They keep thinking they need a reason for why these characters suddenly make their move. So they had to have Hela be like in prison the whole time when they could have just said, "Oh, Hela didn't do anything until now because the idea just came to her." Like that could be an actual like reason. It'd be completely fine if like she thought, "Oh, you know, now that like everything's all in disarray and stuff, I'll try to take over Asgard now or whatever." We never got Enchantress either. She's a really big Asgard.
Actually, Enchantress was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh shit! Okay.
She was in an episode of season 2. That's why Sif was there, and the episode is it was the tie into the Dark World. So at the end of it, it's like some Asgardians are like taking Sif back to Asgard because Odin's going to pass judgment. Odin is Loki at the time, So I think the intention was to build up to a film where Loki is getting an army of evil Asgardians to do his bidding. But then that went nowhere because they completely changed direction for Ragnarok. So Enchantress does exist in the MCU. She should still be around somewhere. And I kind of thought that she would be a pretty logical antagonist for a film that had Jane Foster back to like challenge the relationship.
Gore because for some reason Gore really deserved to be like his own big plot point instead of like just a side villain. And I knew that's what it was going to be. I knew that Love and Thunder was going to be like Ragnarok, where they just shove a bunch of shit into the movie, and then like pretend that it's a cohesive plot with an arc when it's not. There's not going to be an arc. There's not going to be a cohesive plot. It's going to be a bunch of things happening, and it's going to be so many things shoved into a film that most people will come off liking it because our human brain says, "Wow, I got a lot of entertainment out of that," because there's so many things to see, and it's kind of like a zoo. But in movie form, there was so much to look at and like and observe and enjoy that like if you're not looking at it as a movie and just entertainment like a roller coaster or a theme park, then you'll think it's good. But if you actually care about writing and respecting source material and respecting characters and the relationships they've built up over the course of the movies, then you'll hate the film because it craps on all of that. Again, Sif and Thor met, and I didn't even know that was Sif. Like I just thought it was random woman. They had no chemistry. And
you know what's really funny, dog? When that whole sentence just then, I think you went from Ragnarok to Thor: Love and Thunder. Like,
yeah,
just
I meant Love and Thunder.
Sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. Mainly, okay.
Ragnarok is the premonition of that, though. Ragnarok is also just shoving a bunch of stuff into a pot and hoping that like it works because it's like so many things like together. I guess it works a bit better with Ragnarok because at least Valkyrie has an arc. And Thor is responsible for giving it to her because like she was just gonna stay there and live out her days as like a loser, just capturing people for that.
It also sets up for Infinity Wars really greatly. Like that, like Infinity Wars intro is amazing because of the ending of Ragnarok.
Thor has an arc because he wants to save Asgard, but learns that a place is its people, not its location, so he can still save Asgard. Then it gets killed anyway. Yeah. That was one issue a lot of people had with Love and Thunder too. When I saw people actually finally come out and critique Love and Thunder for like the kind of pseudo dumpster fire it is, I did see them.
I think I saw that from day one, but yeah, I get what you mean.
Well, but a lot of the big names were saying it was okay, but when the big names finally came out and started saying it was bad, it was kind of like The Force Awakens. When The Force Awakens first came out, everyone was praising it because it was like, oh, we got Star Wars again. But then you look back on it, and everyone started ripping on for how bad it actually is in hindsight. Same with Love and Thunder.
People just kind of blinded by the fact that Force Awakens wasn't the prequels, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, The Force Awakens was fine.
It wasn't. It was terrible.
It's bad.
When you compare it to like the next two movies, like that's
actually a low bar to scoot under, though. But yeah, that's a
But yeah, to be fair,
I haven't seen it in a very long time too.
The reason for that is that The Force Awakens is just A New Hope again. So he's used the blueprint of an existing good film, and that's why it's better than what came after.
But I was going to say, Love and Thunder, at least I saw a lot of critics point out, rightfully so, that to have that rock dude narrate Gore's life, I mean, to narrate Thor's life and make light of it and make it like a joke was really weird and like tone deaf. I mean, watching your brother die 3 times is like, yeah, it's funny, but it's like, that's not how Thor sees it. So to have it like his story treated that way is really dumb.
You have to consider who plays that rock man.
Waititi, yeah.
Taika Waititi.
It's a metaphor for the direction the Thor films have gone.
For how much he doesn't care.
Waititi telling the story of Thor, he thinks it's hilarious. And that, I'm sure that's not what they were going for, but it's probably what they were going for.
Yeah, that's the thing about like Ragnarok, because it started from Ragnarok where they were just like, Thor 1 and 2, we're going to start making fun of it. And it worked in Ragnarok, but because Ragnarok also was sort of like making fun of it, but also still like giving Asgard its lore, whereas 4 just felt like we're just gonna make fun of it, like period. So I think that was definitely the point where people definitely started like getting more pissed off about it and stuff like that.
At least they had the common sense to kill off Jane Foster, I guess.
Oh my gosh, we've been actually going for like
we should
pretty long.
Yeah.
I don't want to rank the movies is what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I'm gonna just bring up one thing for the Thor conversation to end it off, and I think this would be a great way to end it. By the way, I do think a take that's saying Dark World is your favorite Thor movie is definitely a very interesting one, so I'm very interested to see how people feel about that.
It's not my favorite, but it might be the most impactful movie for Thor, where like the most interesting things happen for his character, and even for Loki, because Ragnarok feels like a side quest they went on, where not much development happened as far as character. They just like went on a fun side quest that was like wacky and silly and enjoyable. Whereas Dark World is actually like, oh shit, like stuff actually happened to Thor that changed his life forever.
Okay, now I want to bring up one more thing. And you see, I never brought this up, but you had a second tweet, Mr. True Underdog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had a second tweet where essentially you were doing the Chad versus Virgin joke, and you were making Thor: Love and Thunder the Virgin, and Morbius the Chad.
Well, it was the fans, to be fair, but yeah.
I want to just ask you, do you actually think Morbius is better than Thor: Love and Thunder?
Better is like the incorrect word. I do think that storytelling-wise, at least Morbius does what you're supposed to do with a story, whereas Love and Thunder just kind of, again, threw everything into the stew and like made like this delicious meal out of a bunch of random stuff, I guess, whereas Morbius is like not a very good dish, but at least it's what it's supposed to be. Because I heard Morbius was like super bad, right? Like terrible, and I expected it to be super bad, so that could have influenced my opinion on it. But then I'm watching the movie and I'm like, okay, well, even though it doesn't make sense for like the his friend to be like evil, at least the villain has a relationship with Morbius, so when they fight, it has like some actual emotional impact, and we've seen them like interact before. Gore doesn't have that. Gore's a new character that has zero relationship with anybody, so he's essentially just a mannequin they're fighting as far as like his importance to the characters. He has no relationship with them at all, so that's a fail as far as like there's no tie-in with him and Thor. So in that one regard, Morbius has at least a villain that has a personal relationship with the hero, so that's kind of cool. Even Green Goblin, right, had a personal relationship with Peter. He was like his best friend's dad, and they knew each other, and they're both science experiments gone wrong, so they tie together, right? And at least Morbius has like a clear beginning, middle, and end, whereas Love and Thunder just kept going. I thought that moon fight was going to be the final scene, but then it's not, and it just keeps going, and I'm like, why couldn't they combine that final fight scene with like the travel to eternity and all that? It would have worked just fine. We didn't need a whole extra like 5 scenes to like tie it together. But yeah, I don't. That tweet is a meme. I know that like a vast majority of people will consider Morbius worse than Love and Thunder, and maybe as a whole piece it is. We take up like the sum of its parts, like how Love and Thunder had better special effects, Love and Thunder had more characters in it, Love and Thunder had like this and that, but at least Morbius never had a scene where like the main character was stupid just for like the plot to go forward, which happens a lot in Love and Thunder, where Thor is just stupid for no reason, or like Jane Foster is just stupid. And at least Morbius didn't add things that ruined the entire MCU and made plot holes that ruined the entire MCU, which Love and Thunder did. So
I mean, it has Vulture in it, so it kind of.
I'm just about to bring that up too. Like, it
has Vulture.
it kind of has that going for it, so it's kind of related to the MCU now too. Here's the thing: I was actually expecting you to be more like, oh yeah, I totally like think Morbius is better than Thor: Love and Thunder, because I was gonna make like a bit kind of saying like.
I could say that if I made an essay, I could argue pretty convincingly that Morbius is a better movie, not because it's more entertaining or looks better or anything, but because what a movie is supposed to be, with like the first, second, third, and fourth act, and how the characters are supposed to be related to each other, like as far as their motivations and their history, and to play off each other. I do think that Morbius, I could argue in an essay, is a better movie than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay, then that's the take that I was hoping to hear. Did you watch Morbius, Snake?
I've not. It didn't seem all that interesting, but I'll say this. I think my favourite part of Thor: Love and Thunder was when Thor said, "It's Thorbin time," and Thorbed all over those guys.
It's so fucking cool.
When I released my new 1995 review, everyone in the comments is like starting to go like, "Oh, I loved it when like Scorpion showed up and said it's Scorpion time." I love it when Luke Cage showed up and it's Kangin time. It's like I had like 3 or 4 of these, so I'm like, what the frick is this going on?
I'm so mad Snake made that joke, because I wanted to make that joke and I kept not seeing my moment to be like.
I am looking forward to when Liu Kang the Conqueror shows up. That should be fun.
Liu Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
That'll be interesting. Oh, so what I wanted to say was like it's kind of
That
hard.
joke died on arrival.
Yep. I kind of want because I wanted to think like the thing is we can't really debate True Underdog on that point about whether or not Morbius is don't commit Sudoku first. We can't debate him whether or not Morbius is a bad or good film because we didn't watch it. Despite I'm pretty certain that it's a really really bad movie. So I think now you're kind of forcing us to watch Morbius for our next podcast,
Have sex,
just so we can
sex.
debate. Oh my gosh, we can debate you on that. So yeah, stay tuned for our Morbius opinions on our next episode.
The best part about Morbius is the bat ball, the bat Hadoken.
The what?
There's a bat
what?
Hadoken. I heard that like Moist Critical reviewed it, and he's like, all of you listening, you're gonna think I'm making this shit up. I'm not. This happens in the movie. He throws a bat ball. It's like he does. He fires a bat ball, and it's meant to be like some big dramatic moment too. And it was super funny. I love the have sex scene. Do y'all know about that? The have sex.
I know that's blowing up. So you don't know this, Nick? This is blowing up. It's the new Spider-Man dance, basically.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But it's the villain. But yeah.
I didn't see the music. No music was in it until I saw a clip today. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's the comments in that clip are just the best because it shows how creative Morbius fans can be with like their comedy. The best one says, choosing the lyrics "have sex" is really clever subtext because that's what Morbius fans do in their free time.
Have you seen the edit of like they brought like do you know Bully Maguire?
Oh, is he there with him like dancing?
So they had Bully Maguire and had the bad guy from Morbius like dancing together with the song. It's pretty good edit in my opinion. But yeah, that was our Thor: Love and Thunder. Stay tuned next time on our podcast when we talk about Morbius. I will watch it for the next episode.
Morbius!
I will watch it. I will watch it more time.
Morbius!